Welcome to My Watches with Ben. Today's video is the third video in a 6-video series on the wristwatch type of dive watch. My goal is to find the best dive watch overall, and today I'm looking at this third price range, $550 to $990, that I'm calling mid-tier. The 6-video series will culminate in a top 10 list of the best dive watches you can get on the market today. And the full series has 633 watches. Today we're just looking at 134, like I said, in this price range. And yes, I called it mid-tier, and that's not fair. They're not all mid. Some of them are like really, really bad. So, you'll see that as we go through. No, but there are some good ones in here. But I think mid-tier is appropriately named. You'll see as we go through. Not to discourage you, there's some fun stuff. We're going to have a great time looking at these watches. You'll learn all about this price range of dive watch. You'll see watches such as the Seiko Samurai, looking good. The Citizen Aqualand, looking great. Even this Tsao Torsk and this Orient M-Force, as well as other ones such as the Certina DS Action, that's a pretty good one. Zelos Black Tip, Marathon MSAR, and ones I'm sure you've never heard of. Have you ever heard of Maigret? We'll look at the Maigret. And the Crepos. There's a few Crepos. We'll look at those ones. My attempt was to look at practically all the watches, dive watches that exist on the market today. Obviously, I couldn't get them all. As I said in the first video, I cut a ton of the Invictas. There's so many darn Invicta watches. There's no way you could look at them all. It'd be impossible. But yes, there's 134. I'm going to rate all of them, give them a score out of 100 so you can compare them. The methodology for the system I use in this, that's in the first video. I didn't want to repeat it every video. So if you're really interested, how did I come up with the scores? I go over that in a ton of detail in that first video. There's also some other background description like the philosophy of the dive watch, this sort of thing. I'll touch on it a little bit, but you probably might have some questions if you just watch this one. But the main purpose of the video is just to see a ton of watches and kind of, point out characteristics about them. So it'll work even if you don't understand. You don't have to understand the methodology. This is a good time for me to mention, if you just have a little bit of time, go ahead and skip ahead to the top 10. There's timestamps in the description. I would skip ahead to the top 10 conventional if you only have a little bit of time. There's 2 top 10s. I would choose conventional if you just have time for one. If you have time, watch this whole darn thing. I think you'll really enjoy it if you're into watches. Okay, mid-tier dive watches. What I found. Here's the breakdown of how the watch is scored in this price category. I like to think of the scores like grades, American grading systems, A's, B's, C's, and D's, and F's, I suppose. But you can understand it even if you're not an American. The score is just a number, you'll see as we go through this. So 40 of the watches in here were green, so that's 30% green. 59 of the watches were yellow, so about 44%. And then 35 of the watches were red, 26%, meaning I don't recommend them. So anything yellow or green, I think go ahead, you get the green light for me to go ahead and get the watch. If it's red, in my opinion, I don't recommend it. So that's how it all kind of worked out. Here's the scores. As you can see in the chart, about 3/4 of the watches are recommended. I mean, from a spec standpoint, they're recommended. I hinted at there being a little bit of an issue with the mid-tier. The issue has to do with the price. So, if price was no object, yeah, a lot of these watches are fine. I think some of these are priced too high. A ton of these watches are priced too high. That's the only issue with this category. But yeah, compared to the last video, you'll see a step up in quality. They've got deeper water resistance ratings. The lume is generally nicer. Just from a looks perspective, there's not a ton to differentiate them from the last one. But they do have higher scores than the last video. All right, here are the watches. Here's all 134. Little medallions showing whether they're red, yellow, or green. And again, red is not recommended. So yeah, most of these things are recommended. The dive watch category is just kind of fun and loose. And there's a lot of quality on the market. These things are actually made pretty darn well. So there's a reason why the dive watch is so popular. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to start with this Zelos Mako here in 11th position and go all the way down to 134, Onus Submersion, or whatever this is called. We're going to do them all one at a time, and I'll just explain some things about the watches. And then at the very end, I'll do these top 10, all just based on the scoring system. But yeah, I've got to say, there's kind of a slump here in the middle. in this category in the overall video. There's just weird. So the issue I have is that the watches are just a little bit much. So there's some really cool ones. Like, okay, the H2O Tiburon, that thing is sick. The Seiko Prospects, the Seiko Samurai, that's really nice. There's some really cool ones in here. Even like, let me zoom out a little bit. Yes, even this Hellberg CH6, that's really cool. Look at that lume, 1,000 meters. You know, there's some cool watches in here, but there's a ton of head scratchers. Like, what the heck? Core 7 Sins, $749 for this thing. This thing right here. That's a head scratcher. That's a major head scratcher. Nubeo Apollo, $910. What is this thing? Stuart Dawson. Okay, these are low scores, but 610. I mean, even the ones that look good, you'll see as we go through, even ones that kind of look good, Pantor Seahorse looks okay. Why is it $720 is the question for this thing. That's all I'm saying. A lot of the prices seem double what you'd expect. Like, this thing should maybe be $300 or something, but no, it's $720. And maybe it's because I haven't bought many watches in this price range. Officina Technica Super, $962 for this thing right here. I don't get it. I don't get why some of these are as expensive as they are. I probably shouldn't rant so much on it. Yeah, overall there is a lot of mid going on in here, so I think it was appropriate to call it mid-tier. Other housekeeping things. This video is strictly focused on specs, thickness, diameter, all these sorts of things. That's what the video is focused on. So, and of course, there is a ton more to a watch than just its raw specs. Of course there is. It's sort of a sorting mechanism to get to the final showdown, the final rounds. This is like the first check is which of the watches excel in the specs department. You know, they have a good lume pattern, they have decent specs to them, they have crown guard, screw down crown, all these things you'll see as I go through. It's to weed out the underperforming ones and kind of focus on the ones that are just built the best as a dive watch. And then at the end, in that last sixth video, there's a huge long process where I look at all these other elements about it. You know, the brand heritage, that's a huge one. The affordability, the looks and aesthetics, that's absolutely huge. There's watches in this video, this Tracer P99. You know, on paper, its specs are great, but look at that thing. It's not going to win a beauty contest. In the sixth video, you know, the top 10 look good. They all look really good. And they have relatively good brand heritage and all these things. It's a balance, of course, but all these elements are brought in on the last video. Okay, I think I've given enough of a preamble, and we can go ahead and dive in. Let's start with number 11. In 11th place is the Zelos Mako. Price of $599, size of 40 millimeters, and water resistance of 300. It's a steel watch, but it's definitely coated with something. I think this is Cerakote rather than PVD. It's got kind of a grainy texture to it, but that coating protects the steel. That's nice. It makes it more corrosion resistant. It's got kind of this integral crown guard here. I like that. This crown is protected. Full lume bezel is looking really good. The lume on this is nice. I mean, I would have liked if they turned the light off before they took the shot, but this is looking good. Very thin, 11.5 is extremely thin for 300 meters water resistance. The average for 300 meters water resistance is 13.7 millimeters. 11.5 millimeters is more than 2 millimeters thinner than the average. You get a nice date. Really cool dial here. Very cool. I don't know what this is made of. I don't remember, but I really like that. You can see the little numerals here on the chapter ring. You get a little lume thing underneath the 6 o'clock date. I like a 6 o'clock date, and I really like when you don't have a missing lume plot here too. 40, great size. I mean, this is a nice watch. Zelos Mako. Score of 84. In 12th place is the Tracer P67 Diver. It is $705, 46 millimeters across, and 500 meters water resistance. Yeah, this is a big one. Coolest thing about this one is the tritium. Tracer makes the tubes themselves. They're kind of a Swiss maker of tritium tubes, so they sell it to others and stuff. But yeah, it's a T25. So the tritium comes in T25 or T100. Those are the only ratings I've seen, and the T25 just doesn't have as much of the tubes. But you'll see there's a conventional lume for the pip. It is nice you do get a lume pip at least, but I do prefer if they do a tritium pip, so you have that constant illumination. Yeah, I don't know if I explained this in the other videos, but the point of the tritium is that it doesn't die. It's always illuminated until it depletes, when it reaches its half-life or whatever. When you decide they're too dim, they're not doing their job anymore after 20 years or whatever, you can get these tubes replaced. But you never have to charge it up. It's always illuminated. I love tritium watches. Yeah, 705, this does seem a bit much. It's a quartz watch, and it's 15 millimeters thick. You know, they save some of the thickness with that quartz movement, but the tritium, you know, kind of pushed it up to 15. For the 500 meter water resistance rating, actually, this is not too crazy. The average is actually 14.5. So this is only half a millimeter thicker than the other 500 meter water resistance watches. Score of 84. In 13th place is the Aquatico Super Ocean. $599, 42 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. This one also has tritium on it, but it also has traditional lume, like on the ends of the hands and on the bezel. It's full lume bezel, but it's traditional lume. Anyway, it looks really good. I'm sure this lume is very nice. 13 millimeters thick is almost a millimeter thinner than the average 13.7 for this water resistance rating. Good size, 42 millimeters for people who like a smaller dive watch. I put up the wrong picture, sorry about this. It says silicone or rubber strap. Sometimes I did the scoring and then I did the pictures after. Sometimes I missed that. This bracelet must not have a bracelet extension on it, a dive extension. And so they do sell it on the silicone. So this score is for the one with the silicone. I try to present the watches in their best light, give them the best score I can. There is a penalty when you don't have a bracelet extension. So I recommend getting this one on the silicone rather than the bracelet that lacks the extension. It comes in black, blue, and green. Those are your color options. Total score of 84. In 14th place is the RZE Asperare. Price of $659, size of 44 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. Great looking lume. I know it's a render, but I expect this lume to be very nice. I love when they mix the colors. The bezel is blue, so the minute hand is blue. Sweet. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, a lot of dive watches do that, but I love to see it. I love to see the mix of the colors. Case looks really nice. It's titanium. RZE does, I don't know if they do exclusively titanium, but the ones that are coming to mind are all titanium. Cool trapezoidal date window here. They've chosen the Chinese good luck number, which so many of these do. The 8. The 8 for the date. I like how the bracelet kind of integrates here. That looks really good. You can still swap it out if you don't want it. But the bracelet has an extension. If you can get a titanium watch on a titanium bracelet, oh man. At that point, even if it doesn't have the extension, I just would be inclined to keep it because a titanium bracelet feels so good. This 13 millimeters thickness is almost a millimeter thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance rating of 13.7. So that's nice. Score of 84. In 15th place is the 6MX 8236, or 6MX. It is $795, $795, 46 millimeters across, and the water resistance is 1,027 meters, which they say on the dive, metrov avtopodzavod. So this is made in Russia. I love the orange minute hand. That is so nice. Their logo is cool. I have never heard about these guys, 6MX. Never heard about this brand. Look at this. There's a lot of cool design things going on. You've got kind of like the Darth Vader Imperial, whatever, this symbol here, that's cool. But then you've got these little bumps here, or divots, like a golf ball, for your grippiness on that bezel, and for the helium escape valve here. This has a recessed crown, meaning there's no like crown guards that come out like a slope up the side of it. It's more that the crown is inside. I mean, this has better protection than the crown guards because it's totally a circle around that crown protecting it. So that's nice. I think the deal with this watch is that this was the steel from a ship or a submarine that sank, and that's literally the depth that it was on the ocean that they harvested it from or something. I'm sure this watch has a lot of history that I'm totally unaware of. I could not find a lume shot, so I just it's just kind of a generic showing you what the pattern is. There's only lume on the bezel, for example, but then the indexes and hands are lumed. There's a tiny amount of lume on that second, but I bet that fades pretty quickly. It's nice you get it. Get your day and your date. This thing is extra thick. This thing is pretty big, 46 and 16 millimeters thick. But the bracelet does apparently have a diver's extension on it. Very cool. Definitely want to look into this some more. If you're interested in any of the watches in this video, please look at some reviews or something. please try it on, find out if you can or whatever. Or I guess take a chance. I usually take a chance on watches, but if you can try it on, please do, because you never know. There can be weird things about it. This is one worth looking into, in my opinion. I mean, $800. $800 seems like a lot to me. A lot of unique stuff going on, too. Score of 84. In 16th place is the Certina DS Action Diver. Price of $970. Size of 38 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. And this lume shot is for a different colorway, because you can see these have the same here. But looking good on the lume. It's just a standard dive lume, hands and indices plus pip. Nothing fancy with the lume, but it looks totally decent. You can get a black, a blue, a green. I think this is, I'm calling the gray one. So the black, blue, green, those are all going to be just more conventional looking, just like more what you're used to. This may have been the only one on the NATO or something, so I chose the NATO one. That gets you a +1 score. I don't remember, sorry about that. The thickness of 12.2 is 1.5 millimeters less than the average for 300 meters water resistance. So that's good. 38 millimeters is a crowd-pleasing size, and you get that Swiss-made watch with the Powermatic 80 hours of power reserve. But yeah, other than the price, I think this is a really great one. It just seems like a bit much to me, $970. You know, on sale, I think it might be a little more compelling. It is a little bland. If you highly prize that brand reputation, you know, maybe you go with the Certina. Score of 84. In 17th place is the Pantor Seahorse. Price of $720, 45 millimeters across, and 1,000 meters water resistance. As I established in video 1, 1,000 is unnecessary. You don't even really need 500. The deepest anyone's gone scuba diving is 300 something meters. And then if you wear some crazy suit that covers every part of your body and you've got these crazy things on your hands and stuff, maybe you can go down to 700 if you're like the most elite athlete in the world or something. So the 1,000 meters is just Fantasyland silliness. And we have a ton that are more than 1,000. But yeah, it's all silly at that point. And you get the helium escape valve. Helium escape valve, that's another one of these silly things. It's not silly for someone who actually needs it, who's going into some chamber and they're, you know, at the bottom of the ocean for weeks or whatever. You know, just for people that are recreational scuba diving, or they're just bathing their kid in the bathtub, it's just kind of silly. It only applies to a very specific scenario. And I go into that in video 1. I'm not going to talk about it anymore in this video. You have to have some crazy chamber to even need the helium thing. This thing is really thick, 16. The average water resistance for a 1,000 meter dive watch is 15.7. So this isn't like crazy for the 1,000 meter, but a 1,000 meter dive watch itself is going to be crazy thick. That's just what you get getting into a 1,000 meter dive watch. So just be aware of that. But we saw an 1,000 meter dive watch that was $195, and I think it looked more interesting than this one. And that was the Ratio Freediver 1000. So that's kind of what I mean, is 3.5 times more expensive than that other one, but is it 3.5 times superior? No, I don't think so. That's what I mean about the mid-tier category. This does have a bracelet extension though. That's kind of nice. Score of 84. In 18th place is the Thanos Osimiri Diver. $780, 42 millimeters across, and 500 meters water resistance. Lume shot is looking pretty good. You've got like white lume and blue lume. That's kind of cool to have the mix. I have seen other ones with this white lume. That's pretty interesting. But this is a titanium watch. This is the first one we've seen that doesn't have any like minute markings whatsoever on the bezel. You're just getting kind of this life preserver style. I mean, at least you get some numerals on this one. It's not a totally minimalist dive bezel, but I prefer having minute marks. And for me, the ideal is just go all the way around that bezel with those minute marks. That makes it the most useful for a timing bezel. So I lose a few points for that. It does look pretty good. It's kind of a minimalist, almost sterile dial here. The blue looks nice. What's going on in the background of their shot? Who knows? There's some kind of party happening back there. Again, I like when there's lume on the other side of that 6 o'clock date, so that's good. Below average thickness for this water depth rating of 500. 13.5 millimeters is thinner than average. And that average is 14.5. So yeah, this is a millimeter thinner than average for the 500 meter water resistance rating. Total score of 84. In 19th place, beautiful, is this H2O Tiburon. Price of $972, size of 43 millimeters, and it's 500 meters water resistance. It's a bronze watch. You've got this crazy, I'm calling it a locking lever. There's a tradition of French divers, ZRC, Triton. I think there's some other ones that do either a 12 o'clock or a 6 o'clock crown, with this little like this little bracelet sort of piece here. You see it's on a leather strap, but you've got this that articulates, that goes over the crown. If the crown is not fully screwed in, this will not close, and when you go to put the thing on, you're going to feel something weird. Also, when this is in the closed position like it is right now, you cannot unscrew this. Now, there's nothing locking it into place, but when it's on your wrist, it will stay in that position, and that crown cannot be unscrewed. So that is super cool. It's sort of like crown guards too. Like, this crown is super protected. That's really nice. I like how they did this. They're copying ZRC or Triton. I can't remember which one, but to have the zeros are smaller. It's charming. This whole thing, yeah, it's very charming looking. So it's an homage watch. I think all these elements are sort of borrowed from ZRC or Triton, or perhaps some other French watches that no longer are on the market. But it's a great thickness, 11.4 millimeters thick for the 500 meter water resistance. Crazy. That is crazy. We said 14.5 is the average, and this is 11.4. 3 millimeters thinner than the average for this depth rating. I mean, H2O is nuts. They make really thin, really deep going watches. H2O is actually the one that has the deepest water resistance rating of any dive watch, 25,000 meters deep. But their other watches they make are just super high quality too, from the like thinness to depth rating perspective. So this is a sick looking watch. It has a penalty for the leather strap of -3. If you swap that strap out, this would be in the top 10, I believe. Yeah, this could be in 6th place overall. This could be in the top 10 if it didn't have that darn leather strap. Very cool watch. Score of 83. In 20th place is the Luminox Navy SEAL Foundation 3503. Price of $645. Size of 45 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. $645. That's a bit too rich for my blood. The tritium looks nice. I'll give it that. The tritium looks really nice. It's got a forged carbon case. That's nice. But it's a quartz movement. It is 14 millimeters thick. That forged carbon might be the best dive watch material. It has tensile strength higher than steel, and yet it is extremely light. Extremely light on this. Most watches will get some kind of penalty here for the size and the material that it's made of, for this practicality thing. This does not. Forged carbon is super, super light and super strong, but it's also expensive. Cool watch, probably priced a little too high. In 21st place is the Tsao Torsk Diver Pro. Price of $750, size of 43 millimeters, and water resistance of 300. Look at that lume. Oh man. I don't know if the purple one has lume like this, or if that was from a different model. It's probably a different model because look, the chapter ring is loomed. This has a purple chapter ring. So your lume may vary depending on the model. They all have a full lume bezel though, I'm sure of that, and the standard lume on the dial. You get a color match date wheel at 6 o'clock. You get these nice trapezoidal lume plots at the 12,369. Very symmetrical looking watch here, except for the 2 o'clock crown and this like single-sided crown guard. There's a lot of daylight here between the crown and the crown guard, so this may not be the most effective. I understand doing a crown only on one side because if you have an impact this way, it'll protect it because the crown is on the other side. But there's a lot of daylight here. So I think if you're going to just do a one-sided crown guard, it should probably be pretty close to the crown and go up a little bit higher. Because look, a blow from this side can still hit the crown pretty hard. The crown guard is not guarding the whole crown. Anyway, it still gets the crown guard credit. It's not losing any points for lack of crown guards. It will also be more protected in that 2 o'clock position. The 13.6 is just average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. That's very nice. The bracelet does apparently have an extension, and it looks really cool too. It's kind of a bead of rice style. Looks good. The dial looks really nice. You get your standard time here on the outside, you know, the 12, 1, 2, 3. I like that. And then the red on the quadrants. Score of 83. In 22nd place is the Tracer P99T. Price of $890. Size of 46 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. There's a mix of tritium lume and conventional lume. The conventional lume is just on these numbers here, and then there's a ring around the outside. Tracer loves to do that. I think it looks really cool. Why not? It's nice you get all the tritium markings for all 12. You'll see some of the ones later in this video cheap out and don't give you all 12. Who's gonna feel good about that when they buy the watch and they're like, oh, you like took away half of my markings. Great. I spent over $500 and I can't even get all the markings on my watch. Oh man, I'm already upset about it and we haven't gotten there yet. But oh, there's a little bit of lume here on this crown. You can see that. That's pretty cool. I just think it's ugly. It looks really deep set in. Look at how deep it looks with the way they did this. It looks like some sort of hole to the center of the earth thing. And it's clearly like plastic or something. It doesn't look good. What they did here doesn't look good. The bezel doesn't look good either. Like Aztec staircase up to the sacrifices thing. And then the metal is like really rough looking. Oh, it's titanium. It is a titanium watch. That'll help because it's big. 46. You'll appreciate the titanium. There's a date with a little divider between the two. That's cool to see. Quartz movement. You've got these battery changes in play. It's traditional quartz. 13.7, a touch above the average for the 200 meter water resistance rating, which is 13.3. Nothing crazy. Pretty much just average thickness for that depth rating. Total score of 83. Oh, I have to change my watch. I forgot this one was in here. I forgot this is in here. I actually bought a watch in this price range, in the mid-tier. I've got a mid-tier watch right here. Most of my watches are the budget or affordable. Got a couple in mid-tier price area. This is my only dive watch that's this expensive. In 23rd place is the Citizen Whale Shark BN0225-04L. This is my own lume shot here. The lume is fantastic on this. Particularly the dial. The bezel you can see is not as bright. But man, that lume is fantastic. It's like blowing out the camera with how bright it is. Yeah, this is great. It's a solar quartz. I think this is the first solar quartz we've seen in the video. It definitely is. That first video had a bunch of solar quartzes. As you go up in price, we're seeing fewer of them. There just aren't as many. Solar quartz is really nice though. It kind of marries the positive attributes of the quartz and the automatic. Positive attribute of the quartz being the accuracy of the movement and the resistance to shock. And then the positive of the automatic being that you don't have to change a battery. You marry those two together. Now, people have mentioned in the past, you do have to have a service interval on a solar quartz. At some point it's going to stop working and you're going to have to get your flux capacitor changed or whatever, send it to the service thing. But that's a much longer interval than a traditional quartz. That solar quartz is going to last much, much longer. It's going to be a service interval that's more comparable to an automatic movement. It is really the best of both worlds to have a solar quartz. But it's going to tick away once every second. I don't think I've seen a solar quartz that does a sweeping second hand. But I actually like the second ticks. When I was in music school, I had a warm-up that I would do with a 60 BPM metronome. I would do this every single morning. If I had the watch, if I didn't have my metronome, I could use the watch to get that 60 BPMs just to start my warm-up. So I don't mind a ticking seconds. I kind of like it. But yeah, okay, let's talk about the watch. It's titanium. It's coated with Citizen's coating that they do. Very hard coating. I have a full review of this on my watch channel if you're interested. So I'm not going to go into all the details. But I really like the dial. It looks so cool. They do have this in some other colors. I found a green and a black, and I don't know, they have some weird looking ones. They have camo ones and stuff that are in this crazy shape with, you know, the square thing with these crown guards on the corners. It's not quite a square though, is it? It's just a very interesting shape. It almost looks like a turtle or something. Like here's the turtle's head and here's the feet. There would be a little tail over here. I took it off of that silicone. I actually don't really care for silicone. I've tried it on several watches. I still have silicone on like one dive watch still, but in general, I don't care for silicone. I like the watch to be able to breathe better and to have more movement. So I've got it on NATO now. I've been really happy with this NATO. It was hard to put the NATO on because the lugs are super minimal. It was really hard to squeeze it in there. Something to be aware of with any watch is if you have really, really super short lugs, sometimes a NATO strap is impossible or really hard to put on there, even if you have a really thin NATO. But yeah, I don't think this thing is too big. 47 millimeters titanium case. It doesn't feel heavy. It just feels like a normal watch because of the titanium. And I really don't think it's too big. I think it's good. But my wrist is 7 1/4. Total score of 82. And in 24th place is the Zelos Black Tip. Price of $599, 41 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. And a huge highlight of this thing is the full lume dial, the full lume bezel, the lume every which way you look. There's lume. Okay, there's no lume date, but yeah, very cool. In my opinion, they did miss an opportunity to have black hands. I would like the black hands. They did this instead. This is still really cool. Kind of have to keep it their own style here. They even have the one on the opposite side of the date window. That's funny. But yeah, it's got a screw down crown. There's no crown guards, unfortunately. Well, it's the look they're going for. It's kind of a skin diver look. Titanium again. I mean, there's been a ton of titanium. So, you know, I ragged on the mid-tier. These green ones, you are getting the specs. We saw in the scores the specs are better. Zelos, you're one of the good ones. Citizen, you're one of the good. There's a lot of good ones in this category. I think I judged a little too harshly. But anyway, 12.5 millimeters thickness is a little bit under the average of 13.3 for the water resistance rating of 200. That's nice. This does have a bracelet extension on this H-link bracelet. Finishing looks really nice. You've got all these chamfers and rounded corners and stuff. It's looking good. And brushing and all that sort of thing. It's looking good. It is so rare you get a bezel like loomed like this. Later when I rate these looms in the 6th video, I know this Zelos Black Tip is in there. This is the best loom of the 50 that are in that showdown. The 50 that are in that runoff round, this is the top loom. Very impressive. Yeah, it's a wild card for video 6. Video 6 has the top 5s from each price range. That's 25 watches. And then there's 25 wild cards. This is one of the wild cards that was in the last video. Score of 82. In 25th place is the NTH Devil Ray. Price of $575, size of 43 millimeters, and 500 meters water resistance. There are a ton of variations to this thing. It's absolutely nuts. When I was trying to find the different ones and the different pictures, tried to find a real picture of this, it was hard to do. Most of their pictures are like sideways, so you can't even really see the fact that there's numbers here. It's hard to get straight on shots of these NTH Devil Rays. But you've got a multi-function bezel. You get both the minutes and the hours. Sick. That's sweet. I would love to have a dive watch that you could do a dual time or an elapsed time. That'd be sweet. Some cool colors on here. The red, orange, yellow, blue. I'm sure there's some kind of meaning to that. You got your 6 o'clock date. Loom is so good. It's disgusting how good this loom is. Look at that. What the heck? The entire multifunction bezel is illuminated. Full loom on that. And then the dial is loomed really nicely as well. Beautiful. 14.5 millimeters thick is the average for 500 meters water resistance. If you really want the 500 meters, this is kind of the thickness you're getting. And this one is not worse than the average. It's just the exact average. The bracelet apparently does not have an extension on it. It's a very cool looking, unique kind of bracelet. But, you know, if you don't have... Yeah, you're going to be getting out your mechanical pencil to adjust that bracelet when it's hot out. You know, here and there. You might have to do that. Score of 82. In 26th place is the Steinhart Ocean 2 Carbon. $832, 43 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. It's a forged carbon case. That's very cool. I like that. Get your record groove deal on the dial. You get a date, but still somehow they have the full 3 here? Look at that. That is very interesting. You've got a skeletonized minute hand, red accent second hand. It's a little bit plain, but there's a lot going on with this one. You get really great loom. Full loom bezel, and then standard loom on the dial. It is on a leather strap, perplexingly. I would want to swap that out. Canvas or silicone. I'm not totally opposed to silicone. It's just usually I find other things more comfortable. I'll still wear a silicone strap. At 14.5 millimeters thickness, it is almost a millimeter thicker than the average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. That average being 13.7. Total score of 82. In 27th place is the Marathon MSAR Quartz. Price of $800. Size of 36 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. Yeah, I checked again and there's only 5 36 millimeter watches in this whole video. So, and this is one of them. And despite what it looks like on the dial, it's only 12.5 millimeters thick. I owned a Marathon GSAR and that thing was thick. I think it was 15 millimeters thick, but it seemed thicker because just how the case is, the sides straight up or maybe even angled out. But yeah, this one's only 12 and a half. 12 and a half is below the average. The average dive watch thickness is 14. But of course, the average for 300 meters is not 14. It's 13.7. But when you're under 13 millimeters, that's good. That's good for a dive watch. So 12 and a half is definitely good. The lume actually looks unimpressive. You've got conventional lume on the bezel and the second. So you only get tritium lume on the hour, minute, and the indices. That's too bad. You get this date between the 4 and the 5. I like that. You get your standard time and your military time. That's great. The crown is really nice with this crosshatch pattern. Bezel is super chunky. It looks like the bezel's not quite aligned. The marathon I had was not aligned. The bezel was actually pretty bad. Total score of 82. In 28th place is the Citizen ProMaster Fujitsubo. Price of $796, 41 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance rating. It's a titanium watch, finished really nicely. I don't know if it's grade 2 or grade 5 or what grade it is. So classy looking. Oh man, it does not look like a Rolex homage to me whatsoever, even though they have the Mercedes. There's no crowns. It does have kind of the Rolex pattern of bezel, but that's also the pattern that most dive watches have, where you have little dots or slashes up to the 15, and then you just have numbers alternating with slashes every 5 minutes or the rest of the way around the dial. That apostrophe in the Divers 200 means that it is ISO certified dive watch, which provides with it some sort of anti-magnetism protection. So I don't know if it's a full Faraday cage or silicone balance spring or whatever they do. But yeah, it's got some sort of protection against getting magnetized. That is so good. It's so good for a dive watch. It's so good for any watch, but dive watch in particular, that's really what you want. I mean, it's included in the ISO rating. 12.6 millimeters thick is under the average by about a half a millimeter for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Yeah, this lume shot is looking good. I like that they put the lume on the other side of that date window. That seems to be pretty common in this price range. So I'm glad to see it. In the budget, usually they did not bother. You just wouldn't get lume there. But it's nice to see that they do that here. Yeah, I really like this one. I think this is a good choice. Score of 81. In 29th place is the Helson Skin Diver 38 Titanium. Man, they're all titanium, aren't they? Price is $749, 38 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. So those of you who like a more conventional sized watch, 38 probably looks pretty darn nice to you. 38 is going to be a good size. I definitely like a larger dive watch. That's my personal preference, but some people prefer the 38 or the 40s. Definitely look at Helson if that's your case, because look at that lume. Oh man, they really did a lot of lume on this. I mean, you've got your full lume bezel, standard lume on the dial, but this is solid. I, of course, would like to see some dots here. There's no dots or slashes. It'll work though, you can use it. It's just kind of annoying because you turn it and a lot of times you just have to use the slashes on the dial if you want to time something to the minute. It's 43 minutes or 42 minutes or whatever. The thickness of 13.3 is about a half a millimeter thinner than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Score of 81. In 30th place is the Aquatico Supercharger. Price of $599. Size of 43 millimeters across, I think. And 1,000 meters water resistance. Hello. You don't see a ton of watches with this square case. Obviously, this kind of looks like the Bell & Ross. There aren't a ton that do them this way. Aquatico, I like Aquatico because they'll take inspiration from a brand like Bell & Ross, but then they do things from a different brand. And they all pretty much have these arrow hands. That's kind of Aquatico's personal touch. To me, that's how an homage should be done. It's just an homage, just like pulling design elements from this and that, not just a straight up copy of something else that exists. So that's nice. This red triangle up here on the bezel really pops. It's a nice color red and matches the text here. It says T100 on the dial. You do have tritium flat tubes, and you've got regular tubes here on the hands, and then one on the second as well. That tritium does make this thing thick, though. There's no avoiding it. That tritium really lengthens the stack on the pinion here in the center, so you know it's going to make a deeper dial. It's going to make it a thicker watch, and you see that reflected here. 15.5 is a thick watch, but is it thicker than average for 1,000 meters? No, it is not. The average for 1,000 meters is 15.7, so this is actually a shade under the average, and it's an automatic. They didn't cut any corners with the quartz movement or anything like that. Some kind of wizardry going on with the Aquatico here. They did a great job. I think they're another one like the H2O that does a thinner watch than average, and they do kind of deeper depth ratings. So yeah, good job on that. The full lume bezel. Yeah, the lume is outstanding. That's one of the reasons you get this one if you do. It comes in black, blue, and green. The blue looks pretty good. I think I would go with the black personally if I got this thing. That would be the reason to go for this. The bronze case looks really good. They may have it in steel as well. I cannot remember. Score of 81. In 31st place is that Mugret Moana Pacific that I talked about, hinted at the beginning. Maybe something you've never heard of. I had never heard of it. Price of $848, size of 44 millimeters, and 500 meters water resistance. It's got some wide lugs on this. 24, 26 would be my guess on this. Makes it kind of look like a Panerai, actually. It has that cushion case and these really wide lugs. That's a look I like. I do like that for a dive watch. Interesting that they have the 03, the 06, the 09, just so that you have double digits on all of these. Interesting choice. The lume looks nice. They lumed the numerals. I love when they lume the numerals. I think that's what you should do if you have the numerals. Most of the time, watches do not lume the numerals, but this looks really good. Full lume on the bezel, really nice. You get the Moana Pacific in this italicized font. That looks really nice. You've got something on the outer ring. So you've got a minute track here, and then outside of the minute track is something extra. Water resistance 500 meters, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes. Are these significant times to a diver? So yeah, if you wait till the top, so this is telling you it's 10 minutes past the hour. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's good information to have. Very interesting. I'm not sure what the point of that is, but never seen that before. The thickness of 15.3 is thicker than average for the 500 meter water resistance rating, where the average is 14.5. Score of 81. In 32nd place is the Orient M-Force AC0L. Price of $550, size of 45 millimeters, and water resistance of 200. You get a negative display date window, i.e. black background with white text. You get weird crown guards. I thought this was a bezel lock or something. That would be super cool. But no, it's crown guards that kind of go over the bezel. So it's a bezel guard too, slightly. But you get this big ring on the crown. It's a beefy crown. There's a lot of colors. Black, blue, green, orange, and tan. I didn't realize there's so many colors. Very cool. The bracelet does apparently have an extension on it. It's like Orient stepping up your game here. Interesting, these zeros have a slash through them. It's kind of cool. Definitely a dated style on this. I think they were doing that intentionally though. It's like a reissue or something. I'm not totally sure. The 13.2 millimeters thickness is totally average for this depth rating of 200 meters. Total score of 81. In 33rd place is the Luminox #Tide Eco. Price $660, size of 46 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. Eco, we use garbage out of the ocean or something. Man, yeah, is this a cynical cash grab? Because, man, they cheaped out on the tritium. If I'm paying $660, for Pete's sake, just at least give me 12 of these things. They didn't give you the seconds, and then they don't give you all 12. It feels like a slap in the face. Like, I don't think they considered that when you buy this thing and you look at it, you're just going to see that and be like, the person who made my watch, I guess they just don't like me. I'm not good enough to have all the markings on my dial. It's just sad. It's like sad and it's just weird. That's the weirdest thing to do, is to just like, we'll save money by pulling these tubes off the watch. Oh man. Yeah, that really rubs me the wrong way. Score of 81. In 34th place is the Crafter Blue Hyperion. Price of $600, size of 45 millimeters, and 600 meters water resistance. It's kind of like a Seiko turtle shape, but you've got this extra ridge here. Looks very shiny. Looks like it's high polished. Crown looks really good in there. Like it's really tight in there is what it looks like. Very nice colors here. This slate gray with the blue. And the date is actually loomed here. That's pretty cool. I doubt it lasts very long, but it's so cool to have a loom date, and you get extra bonus for that loom date. The loom pip here on the bezel is really nice. Yeah, I say if you're just gonna do a pip, make it nice and big, and that's what they did. This is a huge pip. They did like kind of a Panerai submersible style bezel here. There's no numerals. Panerai submersible actually has numbers on these little medallions here at the 369. This does not have any numbers on it, but it's a similar style to that Panerai. And apparently it does have some sort of anti-magnetic protection to it. The 16.3 millimeter thickness is a little bit bigger than average for the water resistance rating. 600 meter dive watch has an average of a 15 millimeter thickness. So yeah, it's a little bit thicker than average. Score of 81. In 35th place is the Notice Sector Deep. Price of $599, size of 42 millimeters across, and 500 meters water resistance. You get a multifunction bezel here. You get your dual time bezel with the hours, and then you get your dive bezel, your elapsed time bezel here with the minutes. I think I would do it the other way around and do the minutes closer to the dial, but that's me. This looks really cool with the bracelet, how it goes with the lugs. Does it look cool or look weird? It actually kind of looks a little weird. It's got a left-hand crown on this deal. It just says deep 500. I think it's supposed to look like, a lot of times you'll do minimal messages like this to be like, deep 2024, to heighten the drama of it, but it just looks kind of silly that it says deep 500. Maybe it's because of the color, because of the orange. It probably looks cooler on the black one. But yeah, I do like that there's this kind of angled chapter ring thing, and then it's cut out for these. It makes the dial look deeper than it probably is, though. Kind of looks like the dial is deep in there. But otherwise, yeah, kind of just plain orange. The first impression when I look at this is like, okay, yeah, it's a watch. It doesn't make me excited. There's a few weird things going on with it. And not weird in a good way, not weird in a stylish way. For me personally, it's not my jam. Lume looks really good on it though. You don't get a date window with this thing. It is almost a millimeter thinner than the average for the 500 meter water resistance rating, which is 14.5 is the average, and this is 13.6. So that's good. Thinner than average. It does have a bracelet extension, so that's really nice too. Score of 81. In 36th place is the Citizen ProMaster Aqualand. Price of $780, size of 50 millimeters, and water resistance of 200. 50 millimeters, that ain't no thing. You can wear a 50. 50's fine. Don't worry about the 50. Now, a 50 millimeter is a big watch, for sure. If it weren't so huge and so thick, this thing would win all the points of all time. Like, it's a good watch, for sure. It is very big. It has 43 out of 40 points for utility. So what's the thing with this Aqualand? It's got like 20 hands on the dial. What's going on? You get a power reserve here. You get a depth gauge. You get something else too. Like you've got the blue one and the white one. I did not learn all the features of this watch, but it is a genuine depth gauge. It's an actual depth gauge. It tells you how low you are. 10 meters below the water, 20 meters below the water. See how it goes only to like 60? Like these are the depths people actually dive in. It's not, nobody's doing 300. Nobody's diving down to 1,000. That would destroy your body way before you got to 1,000. But yeah, people are, these are the kind of depths that are more realistic. I mean, that's the main thing with this watch is that it does that depth. It has some other stuff too. I gave it this bonus of many complications, more than 2 complications. Typically a power reserve already gets it 4 points. So, and the depth gauge, like, you could make the argument this should get even more points for all these crazy complications it has. I don't know what all the 3 crowns do. Very cool watch. The lume is really cool too. They just loomed a ton of stuff. This is definitely one to look into if you're an actual diver and you want something that's literally a diving tool. You got a solar quartz movement on this. That's really nice. I don't know if you can swap out the strap or not because look, it goes really far over here. Check out some reviews. Date window. Yeah, very nice watch here. Score of 80. In 37th place is the Seiko Prospect PADI Samurai. I forget what PADI stands for, but they're a diving organization. I think they certify diving instructors and such. Price of $595, size of 44 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. The lume is looking really good on this one. Pip, as usual, is a little bit dimmer, but the lume is looking great. Dial is really pretty. You've got these wave patterns, and then, of course, dark at the bottom, light at the top. This is a stylish looking watch. I really like the samurai case shape. It's definitely iconic, and others copy after it. Actually, the next watch we'll look at after this one clearly takes some inspiration from the Seiko Samurai. I like this pale blue here, mixed with the other blue. Looks really good. At 12.8 millimeters thick, it is thinner than the average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. It's about a half a millimeter thinner than that average. I love that you get slashes all the way around the dial. This is a tool. It's a tool watch. Yeah, looking good, Seiko. Oh, the apostrophe with the Divers 200 means that it is ISO certified. I mean, you put Patty on the dial, I mean, that kind of tells you all you need to know as well. But yeah, this is, it's got some anti-magnetic protection, so that's good. Score of 80. In 38th place is the Helson Sharkmaster 300. Price of $729, size of 41 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. Like I said, it's taking a little bit of inspiration from the Seiko Samurai, I think, with these angular sides here. Looking at them side by side, they're not really all that similar, but similar kind of case shape. The crown is recessed into the case, so you get some protection there. That's a nice move if you don't want to do full-on crown guards. This still protects the crown. Loom, oh my goodness. Beautiful loom on this. They really put a ton of it. You can tell when you look at this thing and just like everything is glowing because of how bright the loom is. That's looking good. Although on the bezel, it's like some of these are brighter than others. I don't know if that's just like the brightness of the triangle is spilling over. It is impressive. However you slice it, this is an impressive loom shot. Impressive loom on this watch. I think you're going to be happy with the loom if you end up getting the Helson Sharkmaster 300. The thickness of 13.5 is totally average for this water resistance rating. It lost some points for having a bracelet that doesn't include a diver's extension. It's kind of a no-no in my mind. You have a better dive watch when you give people a bracelet that has some sort of on-the-fly adjustment. Yeah, I really like this one. Total score of 80. In 39th place is the Zelos Abyss. $699, 43 millimeters in diameter, and 3,000 meters water resistance. With the two crowns, it almost looks like there's an internal rotating bezel, but no, one of these crowns is for that helium escape valve. If you go down into one of those chambers and you get little helium slipping past those gaskets, you need to release that helium, well, you can do that with this one. And the rest of us can just enjoy the unique look of having two crowns on there. It is thick, 18.5 millimeters thickness. Okay, so one of the limitations of averages is your average is only as good as your population, but the population for 3,000 meter dive watches is only 7. We only have 7 of these in the whole series, and the average thickness for those 7 is 17.5. The 18.5 millimeters thickness is 1 millimeter thicker than average for the 3,000 meter water resistance. Loom is looking pretty darn good here. You've got a loom, fully loom bezel, loom on the crowns, and then loom on the dials looking pretty darn good. I think even the logo's loomed. Strangely, they did not put a little piece of loom here below the date window. And it actually looks a little bit empty there too. So that would have been nice if they had put the loom down here. I think that was a miss. That was a miss. Otherwise, very cool looking watch. If that's the only fault I can find with it, then pretty darn good. Oh, well, it's super thick too. 18 is so thick. This one is, oh, this isn't 17. The other one's 17. Well, anyway, it's a thick watch. Score of 80. In 40th place is the Boulder Odyssey Bronze. Price is $649. Size of 46 millimeters. Water resistance of 500 meters. Interesting shape. I like the bronze. This is weird that the case juts out here. That's looking strange to me, I'll be honest. Color matched date wheel. That looks really nice. Fotina on the hands and indices. There's this big loom pip here. The loom pip's looking good. I mean, the loom pattern's looking nice. This is some kind of render, but it looks nice. I like that you've got the numerals here on the minute track. I like the loom plot on the other side of that date window. That's nice. I like a 6 o'clock date. 14.5 millimeters thickness is totally average for the 500 meter depth rating. Total score of 80. In 41st place, we have the Notice Avalon 2. Price of $625, 42 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. Full loom bezel on this. Technically, I call it loomed hash, so you don't have minute markings. Good looking bezel, good looking dial. Date at the 6 o'clock with the loom below it. That's a common theme we're seeing, actually. Interesting case. It's very curved. I wonder what that looks like from the side, if there's like an arc to it too. Looking pretty cool. Looks like the bezel's really nice. Got these nice grips. Kind of reminds me of the Doxa bezel. At 12.8 8 millimeters thick. It is about a millimeter thinner than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Very nice blue color here. I like dark blues like that. Yeah, this is looking nice. Score of 79. In 42nd place is the Circula Super Sport. Price of $888. Size of 40 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. Look at the loom. This full loom is nice. You've got orange kind of loom, then maybe white loom, and then on the dial you've got all this blue. It does look like the second hand is loomed at the end, so that's nice. Apparently there's a sandwich dial here. I like this in the middle, this hour track in the middle, and then you've got a minute track on the outside. That's pretty cool. Those are nice. I like that. It is an internal rotating bezel, which you use with one of these crowns, screw down crowns. Of course, screw down, the downside being that if you're actually in the water, you unscrew that screw down rotating dive bezel crown, water can get in. So if you're using it for actual diving, you have to set that bezel before you hop in. Just be aware of that. On dry land, it seems totally fine. In fact, that's almost nicer than a traditional bezel, because once you screw that thing down, it's not going to move. So that would be nice. I actually would like that for dry land. It's only 12 millimeters thick, 1.7 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. That's really good. Very nice color match date wheel here to match that dial. Very pretty looking dial. This is kind of teal. It's not really teal, is it? We'll just say blue green, green blue. One of these non-traditional colors. It looks good. They have a black, a blue, and a green. I don't remember if this is the blue or the green, but good color. Score 79. In 43rd place is the Folio Scuba Knot 200. It is $649, size of 41 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. You get a multi-function bezel. Oh man, this is one of those... Okay. Yeah, this is one of those count down, count up things. I think the last one of these I saw, it actually would say countdown on the countdown one, so at least you could sort of figure it out. But if I set this on the minute and I want to do the count up, and it goes here or something, I'd be worried. I would get confused whether it's 35 minutes that have passed or 25 minutes that have passed. Or here, like, has it been 25 minutes that have passed or what? Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe you get used to it. But yeah, I think I might get confused by this thing. 12.5 millimeters thick is thinner than the average, which is 13.3 for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Apparently the bracelet does come with a diver's extension or some kind of on-the-fly adjustment system. So that's really nice. Yeah, loom is looking good on this too. There are a lot of triangles like all over the place, which is throwing me off a little bit, I'll be honest. I'm like, are these hands? Because they're pointing out. Yeah, that kind of confuses me, to be honest, in the loom shot at least. Cool looking watch though. Almost looks like an enamel dial. I like that. Score 79. In 44th place is the Liv GX Divers. Price of $850, size of 44 millimeters, water resistance of 300. This PVD coating looks really cool. I like coatings that just make the watch look a little bit different. So this dark gray is a cool color. You've got these waves. It's a little bit much for me on the dial. The dial's just a little bit intense. The stencil numerals 12 and 6 also is a bit much. I like the little minute track though. That's looking nice. Yeah, these guys make a lot of pilot watches and that sort of thing. But their dive watch looks fine. It looks okay. 44 is not too crazy. I'm fine with the 44 millimeter. It looks like the Cyclops is underneath the crystal, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, the loom does look quite nice on this. Full loom bezel. Total score of 79. In 45th place is the Astor Banks Sea Ranger. Price of $850, size of 40 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. Yeah, this is one of those ones, I don't understand why it's $850. Maybe it's just bad photography, but the dial just looks like it's a plastic toy. The printing on the dial looks kind of lousy to me. Let me see if I can zoom in a little. That doesn't inspire confidence. It doesn't look like an $850 watch. It's got your dual time bezel here. There's a little countdown thing. Orange second hand. Loom looks decent. The loom shot is not great though, because I really can't tell if it's any good. It looks like a full loom bezel, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a full loom bezel, but it's looking weak sauce. And I don't know whether that's the watch is lousy or they just didn't charge it up enough, if the photographer didn't do a good job. Because what is this is their product listing. They did it on this weird yellow piece of cloth with dots, and it was at a weird angle. You can tell because I had to, I rotated it and I put a little yellow thing behind it so it didn't look so weird. But I had to do that with a lot of these product images because they wouldn't just take the picture of the watch straight on, give you the picture so you could look at it. That's too bad. But I don't know if they had much to work with. This is not looking so great for $850. Score 79. In 46th place is the Perrin Regia X, or 10 maybe. It is $852. It's 39 millimeters across, and it's 200 meters water resistance. And I think this is the only one with the 12 o'clock date. You get your date at the 12 o'clock. Very interesting choice. I haven't seen that on any other watch. This is the only one I know of. Now there is that, it's a field watch, but there is that Hamilton that has the full day at the 12 o'clock. And then they have the date underneath it. So that's one of them. The Hamilton, what's it called? Khaki King or something. This is the only dive watch I've seen with that date there. It gets a multifunction bezel, the kind I like, where you have your dual time and your elapsed time. They go together. They even give you the dots all the way around. Yes, that's the way to do it. So I'm digging this a lot. This bezel is nice. This is a very stylish, it's 39. It's looking a little bit more buttoned up. This is not like one of these crazy fun dive watches with loud colors and stuff. This one is like, you're going to wear it every single day. And I think it would be great for that, actually. You got a lot of utility with this. This darker, what did they do to the steel? I don't know if it's coated with something, but it's looking cool. I like these skeletonized indexes here. I'm just a fan of that. I don't really know why. The loom makes it look really cool with the hole here at 12. I'll forgive that because it actually looks really neat. Hands loom might not last all that long, but you get your standard loom. That's fine. Standard dive loom. 12.8 millimeters thickness is a little bit thinner than average too, so I think this is going to wear really nicely. Okay, here's the downside. Man, this would have scored a ton better if they didn't have this major sin in my eyes, the no minute hash marks. So in between here, there is nothing. Look, -9. You get penalized so badly for leaving the minute marks off the dial. I find it so hard to tell the time when you don't have those dots. In this case, it's not all that bad because you have the dots on the outside of the bezel. But for me, I would prefer if they just had the little dots here all the way around. They could be even printed with a dark color, like just slightly lighter than this black dial. So it could be very minimal. You don't have to, but I like to see those dots so that I can tell. Because right now, but yeah, I actually would rock this one. This is a good looking watch. Is it worth $852? Probably not. Probably not. You could say that for most of the watches in this video. That they're priced too high. Often just double the price they should be. If this was $425, I think that's a much better price for this thing. That feels better to me than $852. For Perrin, what's Perrin? Who's even heard of it? But could be a famous watch brand that I just haven't heard of. Anyway, it's a cool watch. Score 78. In 47th place is the Crepos Magnum Opus. Price of $889, 44 millimeters across, and 1,200 meters water resistance. It's got this case shape that is similar to that Aquatico. I think the Aquatico Supermarine. That Aquatico that got first place in, I believe, the budget category. So clearly, this is a standard case shape. I don't know what the origin is, but yeah, this is very cool. That crown is seems longer than it needs to be, but there you go. Yeah, it's a little silly, but let's do the average. So the average for the 1,200 meter water resistance rating is 15.0. That's the average thickness for this water resistance rating. There's only 6 that have that rating. So this contributed to the average with its 15.4, but it's also close to the average at those 6. Nothing crazy. Like if you get a deep, don't clutch your pearls over a 15 if you're getting one this deep. Loom looks awesome. Sometimes the loom shots aren't that great. This is a great loom shot. You can really tell it's got solid loom on this thing. So I love to see that. Yeah, you get your date. You get your shrouded lugs here if you like that. Too bad the shot isn't taken straight on, but it's nice you get the little numerals here. That full loom bezel is really nice. Something to be aware of, the bracelet apparently does not have a diver's extension on it, so that's a downside. Total score 78. In 48th place is the Jack Mason Hydro Timer. Price of $799, 40 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. Lume shot looks really nice on this. Yeah, that's going to be nice. There is no date on this thing, so that's unfortunate. Otherwise, seems pretty nice. Score 78. In 49th place is the Crepas Batiscafo. Price of $829, size of 41 millimeters, and 1,200 meters water resistance, just like that last Crepas we saw. Lume looks decent. It's not as good as the other one. This is just kind of standard dive lume. But this one is considerably thinner. 12.3. That is nuts for a water rating like this. I wonder how they were able to do that. What is going on here, though? They have a straight end link, it looks like. Are there just holes here? Little holes in the corners? That is looking super weird. Apparently the bracelet does not have an extension. You might want to just ditch the bracelet. I don't know what is going on there, but it looks very strange. I like that you get the dots all the way around the bezel. I mean, it's interrupted by numerals, but still good. Yeah, that thickness is so small. Like I said, the average was 15.0 for this water depth rating, so 12.3 millimeters thick is really excellent. Score 78. In 50th place is the Alsta Natoskaf. $785, 40 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. That lume pip is looking super dim. I doubt that lasts very long, unfortunately. I think the gold printing just doesn't look so hot next to this white printing. This is just too dark here, in my opinion. And I don't care for the blue not matching the blue. It's looking a little weird. But you get your normal skin diver type case shape, you know, like the Seiko 62 Moss and countless others, Squale. So many different watches are shaped like this. No one watch can take credit for this case shape, of course, but yeah, it is a common case shape. Going for that vintage look, I think it looks good. But the thickness is nuts on this, 16.2. The average thickness for a 300 meter dive watch is 13.7, so this is 2.5 millimeters thicker than normal. Score 78. In 51st place is the MTM Warrior. Price of $960, size of 45 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. I used to think these MTM watches were not very good, but they're growing on me. They're not bad. This is interesting. You have tritium tubes on the hands and traditional lume with it. And these numbers are all lumed. Well, not the military time, but the standard time numerals are lumed. Then you get a tritium, maybe a tritium pip here. It looks like there's a tritium tube in here with like a covering over it. Because look in that lume shot, there's a little line. Very interesting. Maybe there is a tritium tube in there and it's just covered with like a translucent cover. But yeah, is that a tritium? Yeah, a tiny little tritium tube on the second hand. Very cool. 14.5 millimeters thick is a millimeter thicker than the average of 13.3. But it's not totally crazy. They do these hex screw bars for the lug bars instead of a spring bar. That is a much more robust technology. So that's welcome to see. I love to see that. But it's a traditional quartz with the battery. Why is it so expensive? That's really the only question I have because I think it's a cool watch. I do wonder about why is it so expensive. Score 78. In 52nd place is the Alsta Super Automatic. Price of $785, size of 38 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. Great size for those who want a conventionally sized watch. You get all the markings all the way around the bezel. I like that. Very funky retro look, so you gotta be in on that. If you don't want a funky looking watch, don't go for this one. It's got this weird bracelet that's like single link, not, single link, just these huge chunks of metal. I doubt that feels all that great on the wrist, but I've never tried one. It says there's no diver's extension to it. So hopefully you got some micro adjust things going on. I don't even know about that. I didn't write down if it has micro adjust or not, but bracelet maybe not all that enjoyable. 15.1 millimeters thick is thicker than the average for the 300 meter water resistance. Average being 13.7, so this is 1.4 millimeters thicker than average. Total score 78. In 53rd place is the Night Alpha. Price of $640, size of 42 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. I actually owned a Night Alpha, and I love that watch. It was so nice. It had a rose gold colored PVD coating, and that was so beautiful. It had a blue dial. It was a beautiful watch. It had rough edges. To be honest, it was kind of sharp. The bracelet didn't feel all that great. This one is not shown on the bracelet. And the bracelet didn't have an extension or anything. It just had a regular stamped clasp. Yeah, I kind of see why but they do offer this silicone one. It's kind of cool how it integrates with the lugs, sort of, with these extra flaps here. But the tubes, the tritium is so beautiful. If you're gonna go for tritium, I say just get one with flat tubes like this Knight, or ones like that. But yeah, 14.6 is a little bit thicker than the average for 300 meters. You know, it's about a millimeter thicker than average. It is a quartz, just regular old quartz, so you're gonna be changing out a battery. Fortunately, you can do that at home, no big deal. I know you're supposed to like lubricate the gasket when you do that, so just watch a video on changing a quartz battery and just follow the instructions carefully. Get whatever lube you need or that sort of thing, but not a big deal. The problem is you take it to a jeweler and they're gonna charge you $100 or something. Probably better off changing your own batteries. But yeah, I like that Knight actually supplies watches to special forces and that sort of thing. Definitely a military watch. Of course, they have like black, blue, gray, orange, and white. They're changing all the time though. Just keep an eye on it if you're interested. But yeah, the bezel is really nice. That was definitely a highlight of the one I had. Very sweet ceramic bezel on it. Score 77. In 54th place is the Charlie Paris Concordia. Price of $845. Size of 40 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. Looking pretty classy here with this brown watch. There aren't a ton of brown watches. These guys do probably the best looking one I've seen. This fume pattern looks really nice. And then with the tan color here, it's not quite faux Tina. It's more subtle than that. So I really like that. And then it carries over on the bezel. This is a good looking watch. It's not my preferred bezel for like a tool watch perspective. They could have put a little bit of an index down here, like a little sideways mark or something like that. I think that would have been nice to have the lume down there. There is no lume on the bezel at all. That's another miss. They should have this triangle loomed at the very least. So, you know, it lost points for that. That's why it's a 77 here. You know, just a C plus. Or wait, that's just a straight up C, isn't it? Okay, wait. C plus is 79, 78, 77. That's right. Yeah, the pluses and minuses, there's 3 numbers that can be a plus or a minus, and then just the regular letter grade has 4. 12.5 millimeters thick. It is over a millimeter thinner than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Total score of 77. In 55th place is the TACTICO TC22 Nemesis. It is $625, 44 millimeters across, and 1,000 meters water resistance. It looks wild with these numbers here and these little brackets and stuff. I'm sorry, I did not find out what these mean. I meant to do that. I meant to watch a video on this thing. Maybe I couldn't find a video on it to figure out what these numbers are, these brackets, the 57, the 37, the 27, the 18. They may be no decompression times or something like that. I would look into that if you're planning on getting this. Very cool how they have every single number here with the little red slashes. I like that. It's kind of intense to look at. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's very intense to look at. And they do have marks all the way around the bezel, so that's nice. They're very, very subtle. I like that. And you've got your numerals every 5 minutes. Very nice. The loom looks pretty good. Just your standard dive loom, but it seems like it's well done. Really bright hands. For the 1,000 meter water resistance rating, the average is actually 15.7. So 13.7 is fully 2 millimeters thinner than average. It's going to feel like just kind of a regular dive watch, but you get 1,000 meters of water resistance. So that's impressive. It does say the bracelet does not have an extension. And you've got kind of a lugless case design. So just keep that in mind. It might be hard to do like a NATO or something with a lugless case. That's something, it can be hard to find straps that actually fit because sometimes they have really tight tolerances in there. There's not a lot of room for your strap. Score 77. In 56th place is the Ubique Dual. Price of $649, size of 39 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. The Dual refers to this multi-feature bezel here. You have your lapse time bezel on the inside in that orange, and then on the outside you have your dual time bezel. They have this in some different color combinations. Yeah, this is the pale blue or teal. But yeah, you've got some crazy color combinations here. This may be one of those Kickstarter watches. Cool case shape. It's got some lines on it, sort of like the Samurai, not really. Looks like it's brushed all over, which people like. There's no crown guards on this thing. You do get a couple colors of lume. You get your blue lume and your green lume. That looks really nice. The date window it's not an exact rectangle. It's kind of rounded. That looks good. And then you get like a red numerals on the date wheel. I love red numerals on a date wheel. I think that's cool. On this dial combo, I think black would look better on this one. But in general, I like the red numerals. This thing is very thin, 11.5 millimeters thick, is almost 2 millimeters thinner than the average of 13.3 for the 200 meter water resistance rating. The bracelet apparently does not have an extension on it, so that is one downside. But people who like smaller watches will really like this 39. They did the hour hand orange and the minute hand silver. I prefer it the other way around. Also on this one, the bezel where you're looking at minutes is orange. So that's a bit of a mismatch. This hour hand you're going to compare to the outside bezel, the teal one. So they got this wrong. The minute hand should have the orange. You know, whatever you do, don't do what they did here though with the orange hour and then the orange bezel for the minutes. It's a mismatch, but cool looking watch, very unique. These other colorways are really cool too. Score 77. In 57th place is the Halios Seaforth. Price of $775, 41 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. They must be out of the pink one. I know they had a pink that looked really good. This is one of those no-date ones that, you know, enthusiasts are really fond of. You get all the marks around the bezel. I love that, the minute marks. Interrupted by the numerals, but it's still nice to have them. Very thin bezel. It's got a domed crystal here. Looks like it's sapphire. Full lume bezel. That looks nice. The lume shot just may not be very good, but the lume pattern looks really nice. I have no idea how long it would last, so check out a review for that. I love that they did black hands. I don't know if I mentioned this in this video yet, but black hands are really nice. If you're doing a pale color, just paint those hands black. It's going to look so much better than just silver hands against a light dial. So this is nice. Yeah, it's a stylish watch. Very minimal text on the dial. It says auto and then matic. That's a little charming. 12.4 millimeters thick, is almost a millimeter thinner than average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Very nice. Total score of 77. Yeah, I'm having to eat my words a little bit on the mid-tier thing because there's some cool watches. 775 is a little bit much, but it is a very cool watch. In 58th place is the Baltic Aquascaf Dual Crown. Price of $700, 39 millimeters again, and 200 meters water resistance. Nice sizes for, you know, that's what people want right now. They want these 39s, they want the 40s. So here you go. There's a lot of options in that size. This is one of these internal rotating bezels. Full lume bezel, that looks good. And you get your little minutes on the dial as well as on the bezel here. That's what I like. That's what I like to see. The case is very interesting. Look at this brushing on the case. It's got kind of a radial brush or something, but it's PVD, coated steel. Another really thin one. 11.9 is almost 1.5 millimeters thinner than average. The average for the 200 meter water resistance rating being 13.3. Very nice. Score of 77. In 59th place is the Victorinox Inox Professional Diver. Price of $700, size of 45 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. Look at that lume pip. That is awesome. It's huge. I mean, it's super far from the dial. There's a lot of space here. There might be a lot of like vertical space too. So that's always something to be aware of with a dive watch. It does make it harder to see underwater because the water kind of refracts. The water does weird things to your dial. You really have to look at it straight on. So the deeper it is, the harder it is to look at under the water. But bezel is very interesting. There's not really any knurling from what I can tell. I do like this hexagonal shape here where you have these angular cuts into the bezel, and then you've got the numerals on the outside. Very stylish. Nothing else looks quite like this, so Victorinox has a very unique design here. Never seen any other watch quite like this Inox, so it's very distinctive. I mean, everything I've ever seen about this, you know, it's a quality watch. You don't have to worry about the quality. This is very rugged. It is a quartz. That's something to be aware of. But, it's got protection against shock and magnetism. Very hardcore. 200 is really all you need. I guess unless you're breaking records or something, but other than that, for everybody else, 200. Because, remember that Aqualand? It only goes up to 60, the actual depth gauge. That's as low as anyone's going recreationally. So, 200 is going to meet all your needs. It really will. It is a little bit thicker than average. The average is 13.3. This thing is 14 millimeters thick. But part of that is just like how robust they make this thing. They run it over with tanks and stuff, and it's fine. So that's kind of what you're getting with this one, is you're getting a ridiculously rugged watch. Score 76. In 60th place is the Seiko Sumo SBDC 005. Price of $873, size of 44 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. I don't think I chose the best color to display here. Sorry about that. There are so many colors, you can't even believe it. I won't even list them, but here they are on the scorecard. You can see them there. Loom looks good, actually. This looks like good loom. Earlier when I said things looked like the Samurai, maybe they look more like the Sumo. So yeah, the Sumo also has this little like seam here where the two angles of the bezel come to a vertex or whatever that's called. Does it have crown guards? No, it does not. There's nothing recessed here. It looks like it's just on the side of the case there. No protection for that crown, unless I'm missing something. Cool watch. It says Scuba on the dial. I probably should have had that somewhere here in the title. The thickness is exactly the average here, 13.3 for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Apparently there's some protection against magnetism with this thing, so that's pretty cool. Score 76. In 61st place is a very cool watch, the Horizon Pilgrim. Price of $834, size of 41 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. Man, this is cool what they did with the date window. I'm just so excited by it, I had to say that. They did these numbers like this one where they kind of angle up on that date window. It's a retro style, which I really like. These trapezoidal sort of date window cutouts, but they're a little rounded on the edge, so it's not quite a trapezoid. Cool shape. Just, I don't think we explore shapes as much as people did in the past. So you look at these retro designs and you're like, oh, that's interesting. They're a little bit more adventurous in the past with designs. And it's cool to see some of those dragged up. The faux Tina is quite dark on this thing. It is an internal rotating bezel. The bezel, they've chosen just kind of like very plain thick. So you've got your internal rotating bezel, and then outside of that, this part is very thick. Usually they go for a very minimal one. I'm going to jump over to this Trasca here that's coming up. Just to show an example, look at how tiny this would be on the Trasca, and then we go back to the Horizon, hugely thick. So that is a major design element for this. It gives it kind of a sturdy look, which is interesting. I like this dark green, and they paired the strap with it perfectly from what I can tell. The bezel and the dial look perfectly matched as well. I don't know if this is an actual product image. I would definitely look into it to see. Oh my goodness, how did I not notice this? You have a loomed date. That is sick. Oh, that is so cool. That's the cherry on top. Oh man, it's a very cool looking watch. It's making me rethink my whole oh wait, it's $834. I'm not rethinking anything. That's way out of my price range. But yeah, this is cool. I was gonna say it's making me rethink my ban on internal rotating bezels. I should probably get one just to kind of fill out the collection. Have one that's a little different. So I should look into that. After this video's done, I have some work to do, kind of going through all my thoughts on all these watches, kind of figuring out which ones really do I want to get left. There's a few slots left in my dive watch collection, and you can always sell off ones you already have and replace them. So there's a lot of thinking I need to do about the dive watch, as I'm sure other people watching this will have to do. You look at your collection and you're like, oh man, there's some stuff I don't have in my collection, some dive watch types that I'm missing that are cool. The internal rotating bezel, I think I should probably pick one up of some sort. I just changed my mind right this moment. But anyway, the 12.4 millimeter thickness is 0.9 millimeters thinner than the average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. Yeah, I'm knocking the mid-tier, but again and again, it's exceeding expectations. So I think I just had to get a little bit closer, look at them individually, and see that there are some good ones in here. Yeah, total score is 76. In 62nd place is the Circuit Reef Diver 2.0. Price of $600, 46 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. All right, a 46. Interesting 2 o'clock crown here. Very big crown. I like the orange and black. That is a good color combination. And with the hands, the way they loomed all the end of it, that's going to look really good in the dark. And it also provides great contrast. So this is a well thought out watch. It's very cohesive and also pleasing to look at, in my opinion. I would have liked if on the end of this date window there was a little point of loom here to match the other side. I think that would be nice. And then you wouldn't have an interruption in the loom pattern down here. You've got some interesting cuts on the bezel here, like a one-way ratchet style. So it'll feel really nice to turn it to the left, and then it'll feel smooth if you tried to turn it to the right, but most likely it's a unidirectional rotating bezel, so it wouldn't want to go to the right anyway. That's interesting how they did the cuts on this. I like that. 14 millimeters thick is not too crazy for 300 meters. The average for 300 is 13.7. So just a tiny bit thicker than normal. Yeah, very cool. Score 76. In 63rd place is the Baltic Aquascaf Bronze. Price is $673. Size of 39 millimeters across and 200 meters water resistance. You've got a minimal kind of a bezel. They actually do have loom in these little indentations though. Even in the 15, the 45, the 30. Look at that. That's very cool. In fact, double check with this bronze one. Definitely double check. Don't just buy it thinking you're getting loom on the bezel just because I say so. Verify everything for yourself, please. I only have a hesitation because I'm seeing the bezel is darker than the case on the loom shot, and on here they're identical. So I'm like, is this a different colorway? So check that out. I really hope I didn't put the wrong one up here. Or maybe they offer it with multiple bezel choices. A lot of times that's what happens with these micro brands. The blue looks amazing. The blue looks so good with this bronze. The bronze is looking very light colored. It will not stay that way. If it's actually bronze, which it says it's bronze, it's going to patina. It's going to darken up, get brown. It's going to get little smudges on it. You get your fingerprints on it. You might even see your fingerprint on the side. Those sorts of things. That's just what you get with a bronze watch. I find it charming. I find it endearing. I like the darker brown. But the thing with bronze is anytime you want to make it look shiny and new again, you just get out your lemon juice, there's instructions for how to make it look all shiny again. You just make that bronze shiny again. No big deal. And some people like to accelerate the patination process. I think that's a little silly, but you can if you want to. Again, the internet is a great resource for all this information. The loom looks good. I prefer to have minute marks, but I understand they're doing a minimalist thing here. I think it really works for the design of this. It's looking classy. I like that the crystal appears to be domed here. It's nice you've got that flecto. Perfect flecto. It's so hard to get that perfect flecto in the real world, but this looks good. 13 millimeters thick is a little bit under the average of 13.3 for 200 meters. Total score of 76. In 64th place is the Traska Seafarer. Price is $660, 39 millimeters in diameter, and water resistance of 150 meters. Rare water resistance rating. Not very many of these in the whole video series. Very interesting color here. That's kind of mint green with this pale, interesting gray blue on the bezel. Another internal rotating dive bezel. Another minimalist type of a bezel. Not many markings on here. That's one of the reasons it's not like a C+. It's just a regular old C grade, 76. Because those sorts of things add points when you have the extra marks on here, when you have more numerals than just 3 numerals on the whole bezel. Loom looks pretty good. They didn't turn the lights off all the way for this one, but you can still figure it out. You can still see what the loom is. Oh my goodness. 9.5. That is crazy. That might be the second thinnest watch in the entire series. All we have is the Nove Trident, 6.8. So that rounds up to 7. And then a handful of ones that round up to 10 millimeters. And there's nothing in between. So this could be the second thinnest watch in the whole series. Very cool. The bracelet does apparently have an extension. And it's 39. I mean, I think this thing is going to wear so nicely. I like the black outline on the hands. That looks really good. Indexes are a little bit pale against the green. but at least you do have a black printing for this minute track. So I think they made it work. Very cool logo with Traska. Really cool micro brand. Score 76. In 65th place, we have the Abingdon Nadia. Price of $849. Size of 35 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. 35 millimeters is quite small. There aren't very many this small. Most of them are usually when they're this small, they're like for kids or something. This is a full-grown adult's watch. I think it's for women. It's like kind of a it's a little bit of a shame that it's so blatant with this. I don't think they have any colorways that are more subtle. They might. That is a shame if true, because you don't have a ton of options in the 35 millimeter size. But it is interesting. You've got the external rotating bezel, and you have an internal rotating compass bezel. So it got an extra point. Well, so it has this line item here. It says 2 useful complications in addition to the date window. So you get the date, and then in addition to that, there's 2 more. You get the day, that's one of them, and the internal rotating compass bezel is the other one. Very cool. Is there tritium on this? No, there's no tritium, but loom pattern looks pretty darn good. There is loom on that second hand, so that's nice. Loom on the bezel. That is so far, though. Look at how far that loom pip is from the actual dial. That's some distance. Yeah, this is really cool. Unique watch I had never heard of. Abingdon Nadia. Score 76. In 66th place is the Far Plus Swit Seaplane. Price is $679, 42 millimeters across, and 100 meters water resistance. Loom is looking good. Full loom bezel here. That's really nice. The waves, again, are too much for me. I tend to get overwhelmed by too much pattern on the dial. Overwhelmed is probably the wrong word. It's not like it bothers me psychologically or something. I don't aesthetically think it looks very good to have all this crazy pattern on the dial. There's no loom on the second hand, so that definitely hurts it with the score. But you get your date. No border on this date window. It looks a little bit like an afterthought, the way they did the date there, unfortunately. Minute track's looking good, that blue contrast. Nice ceramic bezel. It's looking shiny, at least in this picture. If you do a ceramic bezel, yeah, get some light on there. Try to make it so we can see that it's nice. Some of these have that ceramic bezel, but you couldn't tell from the product listing. They've got a plane, so this is like a seaplane. It's like a diver pilot watch. Comes on a sailcloth strap, 12.5 millimeters thickness. The average for 100 meters of water resistance is actually 13.4. So it's almost a millimeter thinner than average for this depth rating. Score 76. In 67th place is the Devosa Turnos. Price of $929. Size of 40 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. It's another one of these darn Rolex homages. This one is almost $1,000. Oh man. I'm standing by my recommendation. If you just have to have a Rolex homage, go with the Chronos. Just save your money. Don't be spending $1,000 on a Rolex homage. It's too much. That's too much money. If you take the rule of thumb of 1/20th, don't exceed 1/20th of the price of the actual watch. Rolex Submariner date is like $10,000. So by that logic, the most you could spend is $500. The 1-to-20 ratio. Just keep it under $500 at the very least. This is out of the bounds of that logic there. The pip looks really weak on this loom shot. At least they didn't give you a paragraph of text. That is a blessing. It's Swiss made. If you've watched this video series, you've seen so many cool watches. But you do what you want. If you want this Devosa, go for it. Score 76. In 68th place is the Gavox Avidiver. Price of $757. Size of 43 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Avidiver, you see the airplane on there? That's cool. The V is like the airplane. Cool logo. And you've got these airplane numerals like on the cockpit. You have these instruments on the cockpit. They a lot of times the clock has these big 3, 6, 9 on them. I think that's so cool. I really like that. Look what they did with the internal rotating bezel. That is sick. The little triangle is stuck to that rotating bezel, but it hangs out over the dial. So when you turn this thing, it goes around like that, and it shows you like its holder where it belongs up here. And that V matches the V in their logo. So somebody was really creative with this. They really thought it through. You actually get crown guards on the dual crowns here. That's really cool. Even the silicone strap, it kind of comes together. You see that V pattern continued, that design. You know, kind of looks like a bird, kind of matches that V and the Gavox. Very cool. They got their own little silicone strap there, or rubber, whichever one it is. At 12.8 millimeters thickness, it is half a millimeter thinner than the average for the 200 meter water resistance rating. It has a sandwich dial, so there's a cutout here on the dial and there's lume underneath. There's a ton going on with this thing. You get your date here at the 4 o'clock position. Yeah, I mean, this thing is so much cooler than that Devosa. And so many other ones are too, but yeah, not to still be stuck on the Rolex rant. But yeah, this is a cool dive watch. Totally unique. Well, not totally unique. Like, this is a standard Flieger hands you see on Pilot Watch. There's no lume on the second, so that is one reason why it didn't score as high as it would have. You lose 3 entire points for that second hand not having lume. It's kind of a big deal, but still a decent score of C grade. Still passing. I still recommend this as a dive watch. Total score 75. In 69th place is the Beaufort Sea Trekker. Price of $594. Size of 39 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Very cool color they got with this purple one. There aren't a ton of purple dive watches, so a lot of times if they have the purple, I put it up so you can see it. Something a little different. I like how it goes from light to dark. Interesting that the bezel does that. When you rotate the bezel, it'll look a little different. It's kind of cool. Interesting they have the minutes printed on the inside where the hour points. To me, it makes a little more sense to put it on the outside. In fact, that's one of the benefits of a dive watch. So there's the Flieger Type A, the Flieger Type B. Flieger Type B has the hours on this inner ring and then the minutes on the outer ring. And it looks kind of weird, actually. It's a little bit, throws us off when we see it. But a dive watch sort of does a Type B Flieger watch. Like, look at the Spinnaker here. You've got your minutes on the outside. It looks normal to us on a dive watch. It looks strange when all that's under the glass with everything else. Anyway, I think this should have the hour numbers here rather than the minutes. But that is Ben's opinion. Lume looks good. It is not technically full lume, in my opinion. So to get the full lume bonus, just to explain for you guys, this was explaining the methodology, but you have to have minute marks that are lumed. Some amount of minute marks. This is fine if you only go to the 15, as long as they're lumed. So those minute marks aren't lumed. I don't consider this full lume. I call it lumed hash. That's what I put here instead. And I'm sorry, it's a weird thing to call it, but that's just what I called it for scoring purposes. So it's like 1 point difference between full lume and lumed hash, but there is a difference. So they would have gotten a point if they lumed these little markings here. Good looking lume though, no problems there. Where's the date on this thing? There's no date! Okay, well that's definitely losing a couple points there for that, but thickness of 12.6 is fine. It's thinner than the average of 13.3 for this water resistance rating. Very good. Score 75. In 70th place is the Spinnaker Spence. Price of $650, 40 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. Lume is looking all right. I can't tell what I'm seeing here. Are these little slashes? What did we say here? We say lumed hash. So apparently these little hash marks are lumed as well. It's looking kind of dim. They needed to blast it with a light before taking the picture. It's looking super uneven. So yeah, this lume shot is not casting it in that great of a light. In fact, yeah, I don't even, the pip, the circular pip here at the top, that is super pale. Interesting. This is very thin though, 10.9 millimeters thick, is almost 3 millimeters thinner than average. The average for 300 meters being 13.7. So yeah, 2.8 millimeters thinner than average. Very good. The bracelet does not apparently have an extension, so that's too bad. It's a brown watch. There aren't a ton of brown watches. I mean, they do offer it in black, blue, brown, green, and red. As I mentioned, I like to highlight some of the more unusual ones, so you're aware they exist. Oh, there's a brown watch. Oh my gosh. Not a ton of brown. Total score 75. In 71st place is the Marneau Dark Surge 300 meter. Price is $810, size of 41 millimeters, water resistance of 300 meters. You've got the lumed hash thing going on here, like I said before. They do have slashes for every single minute, but good grief, if you set this timer to somewhere and then 52 minutes have elapsed, I guess you could go backwards. You could go 55, 50, and then count up. But otherwise, you're going to be counting 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, all the way around the dial. So there's a reason why numerals are usually on the dive bezel. When you take them off, you do sacrifice a ton of functionality. And I guess they think it looks cooler. I would like the numbers on here. And it would be like the Flieger Type B thing again, with the hours on the inside, minutes on the outside. I do like that. It's a sandwich dial, and you've got all these little cutouts. All these little dots going toward the center. Looks kind of cool, like a video game or something, like one of these old arcade games. You're flying down a tunnel. Pretty cool. You've got like Tudor Ranger handset here. That's interesting. Auto, text return, Matic. Like they separated that entirely. That's funny. Oh, there's all kinds of numbers down here. These look like GPS coordinates, and I have no idea what it is. Maybe it's where they make it. It's kind of cool. 14.6 millimeters thick is about a millimeter thicker than average, the average being 13.7 for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Score 75. In 72nd place is the Steinhart Ocean 44. Price of $591, size of 44 millimeters, surprise, and 300 meters water resistance. You've got a PVD steel case. They're still sort of doing the Rolex thing. It's an uninspired thing from Steinhart. You know, you got the ring like that darn Deep Sea or whatever it is, the Rolex one that says helium escape valve on it. Of course, this doesn't have a helium escape valve, but it's got this other thing here, Ocean 44. It's kind of branding. Like I remember in the 90s, people would have a shirt that would just have these huge letters saying what the shirt is. Is that going back in style? I don't know. I'm out of touch with style. I think it's a little tacky to say professional dive watch here. That's a bit much. Do we need to? Like, it's just about average in thickness. There is no extension on this bracelet. I actually find that PVD bracelets feel a little bit weird to me, so I don't really care for that. I prefer the feeling of just bare steel on my skin. When it has a PVD coating, that always feels a little bit icky to me. So I'm not a huge fan of PVD bracelets, personally. Yeah, it'll do the trick. It's a capable dive watch. Lume, not super impressive, but you do get this kind of white lume that I don't see all that much. Score 75. In 73rd place is the Sturmansky Ocean Stingray. $768, 47 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. Look at this crazy thing up here. I called it a locking lever. There's a cap. It should be called a crown cover. I think I added the crown cover thing later, so some of these ones that say locking lever, they should say crown cover. But the bezel is really cool. So the bars here stay the same. They don't move. These 6 little dots around here that are loomed, that doesn't move. That always stays the same. What does move is this triangle that is like sticking way out. That's what turns. When you turn this bezel, it's just that triangle that's going to go around. Very cool. You've got the crown guard only on one side. That's cool. Why not? That's a cool thing to do. Your date window is on the left-hand side. And full lume bezel, of course. That's looking cool. I do like when they just alternate every number. I like that style for a dive watch. The second hand is very interesting. It's got like feathers on the back, sort of like an actual arrow, and there's an arrowhead on the front. But then you get this circle here, just in the middle. And there's no lume on the circle. It's just a circle there. Kind of weird. It is 15 millimeters thick, which is thicker than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. It's 1.3 millimeters thicker than the average. It comes on the leather strap. It lost some points for that. Man, those lugs are thick. Don't worry about that lug snapping. That's not going to happen. Yeah, 47 is pretty darn big. I bet this thing wears really huge. It's definitely a statement piece. If you wear this thing, it's going to be noticeable on your wrist. No question about that. It's not going to like blend in and be subtle. You're definitely going to notice this thing with the huge bars on the outside. I wonder if the 15 millimeters includes those bars or if it doesn't. So that'd be something to look into. I mean, if this does include the bars, then this isn't actually that thick of a watch probably, because those stick out considerably. Total score 74. In 74th place is the Maine Hudson Mark IV. Price of $649, size of 38 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. Oh, yes. This is a good combo. They really understand like the power of using just two colors, just the black, well, it's three. It's like black, white, and red. It's looking great. This is really nice. So I definitely dig what I'm seeing here. The bezel's a little bit thinner than you often see on dive watches, which always just gives it a little bit more refinement, makes the watch look a little more refined. It depends. If you overdo it, it can be kind of weird. This watch just has really good balance, in my opinion. The logo is really nice, just 4 letters long, all caps. It just looks good. I like this hand. You don't see that kind of a hand, sort of like the Empire State Building or something. You've got these shoulders to it, and then just like a rectangle that sticks out that's red. It looks really good. Something a little bit off with the lume shot though, because the red should be, this could be for a different colorway. I bet that's what it is. But you'll see the bezel does not have any lume on here. They went with an aluminum bezel insert is what it looks like to me. And they did all the numerals, but you still get all the little markings. They just made them smaller. And I think with this thickness of bezel, that actually works totally fine. You know, whatever font they used here, it looks good to me. I like this a lot. This is very nice bezel, very classy looking, but still you have all the marks. Yeah, because I see lume here on the second. Is that going to be red lume? Is it going to glow red or just be super dim or something? I definitely have a question about that. At 12.1 millimeters thick, it is 1.5 millimeters thinner than average. Total score of 74. In 75th place is the Hellberg CH6. Price is $648, size of 46 millimeters across, and 1,000 meters water resistance rating. Hellberg, they have a lot of customization you can do. So I was unable to like get, their website's working a little bit weird with my browser, so it was hard for me to like show different things. I think I wanted to put on a different bezel because they have some cooler looking bezels with this, but I was unable to do so. But their bezel is full lume. That's something you can get. I can't remember if it's an add-on. This one has no date, but it's possible you can get a date version. Definitely check them out. They allow a lot of customizations. Very minimal dial printing, just an H and then Hellberg, and that's all you get. That's kind of unusual. It's fine with me. I don't really need a ton of text on the dial. I can kind of just like look at the spec sheet and decide whether I want the watch. And then I don't really need the watch to tell me all this information about it. Another brown, but you do get more traditional colors of black, blue, and green as well. 16.2 millimeters thick is a little bit thicker than the average for 1,000 meters water resistance. The average is 15.7. So this is a 0.5 millimeter thicker than the average for the 1,000 meter depth rating. That lume is looking so good on this one. That's definitely one of the highlights of the watch. These lugs are looking really, really small. I don't know if this goes underneath or something. It might be kind of tough to change this to a different strap. So that's something to be aware of. But the lug to lug is going to be nice and squat. So even though it's a 46, it might work on wrists that can't typically take a 46 because the lug to lug looks very short. Total score 74. In 76th place is the Canopy Wake 1. Price of $599, size of 41 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. This bezel insert is so cool. I don't know what they did to make it. Some kind of carbon fibery thing, or maybe it's plastic. I don't know what this is made of, but it is looking so cool. I bet each bezel is unique. You know, whatever process they're doing to make this. Kind of looks like a bowling ball or something. Whatever they're doing to make it, no two bezels are probably going to be identical. I like the quadrant thing they got going on here with these little V's and then the filled in triangle at the top. That's really cool. I like the 05. That's nice for balance when you do these. The dial appears to be textured in some way, and it looks really good on this one. That pop of red. Yeah, like that. The main, just having a little bit of red. I mean, the main had more red on it, which I think worked. This works really well too. They have a ton of white, and that's kind of the main thing, but you just get that little pop of red. That looks really good. Of course, the downside is they don't have any lume on that second hand. That's the trade-off. But it's a really cool looking watch, and I think it is totally suitable as a dive watch. A little bit thinner than average. Score 74. In 77th place is the Nighthawk Polar. Price of $630, 51 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. Oh man, full bracelet on this thing. Good grief, what is the distance on here? That's like a 24, 26 millimeter lug width or something. I don't have that on the scorecard, so I don't know exactly, but if this thing is 51 and that's that thick, that is a huge heavy bracelet. This whole watch is gonna, oh my goodness. Okay, well the case itself is fiber reinforced polymer, which doesn't have a very high tensile strength. It's not really all that different from plastic. It's basically just a plastic watch. So they say fiber reinforced polymer. It's pretty much just plastic. It is a quartz watch. Of course, why didn't I mention this? The tritium on here is kind of the reason you get this one. Only T25, so it's not super bright, but I think it is still going to look good. It would have looked better with the T100. But this way you get to have nice big numerals, your standard time, your military time. Knight makes military watches. It makes sense. You get all the markings all the way around the bezel. That's nice. This is kind of throwing me off here. The fact that the numbers are so different in size. It looks a little weird. Very grippy bezel. A lot of stuff for your fingers to kind of catch on when you want to turn it. So it's probably pretty easy to turn this bezel. I don't mind this date window in between the 4 and 5, but it does kind of mess up the balance. Might have been better just to have it here at the 6 o'clock. Hard to say, because then you're chopping off the 6. It's okay. I don't actually mind that very much, but I know some people do. But those people are probably not going to get a 51 millimeter watch anyway. The guys who are worried about the date being right there. 14.6 is definitely thicker than the average for 200. A millimeter plus extra thick. Total score 74. In 78th place is the Unity Watch Black Pearl. Price of $692, 43 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. Neat little case shape here. Kind of oblong. It's cool to see all these minute markings here. I don't like this minimalist bezel here. There's just no numerals or anything. You're having to count around if you use this as a timing bezel. The steel bezel insert is okay, but I prefer a ceramic, as I think most people do. Lume looks decent. Got a little bit better than average lume on this thing, although the hands look a little bit weak. Score 74. In 79th place is the RGMT Demolition. Price of $810, size of 48 millimeters, 2,000 meters water resistance, very deep water resistance rating. Bonus, I actually went a little bit above and beyond in manufacturing a lume shot for this thing. So, I did remove background to just kind of show you what it would look like with the lume. It's a little bit time consuming, so I didn't do that on very many of these. I usually just did like a generic. But yeah, the 12 is lumed, and then you've got lume all the way around the bezel in a lot of different places, so that looks good. But yeah, I couldn't find an actual shot from the website or anything. You get your helium escape valve here for those of you guys who go in the chamber and everything. 20 millimeters thick is outrageous. It's just totally outrageous. What is the average for 2,000 meters though? The average that I have shows 18.5. So it's only a millimeter and a half thicker than average. If you want a 2,000 meter dive watch, you're just getting a thick watch. That's what you're getting. There's only 8 total in the whole video series though, so there aren't that many. Apparently the bracelet doesn't have an extension on it. That's unfortunate. When you have a huge heavy watch, you want to be able to adjust it day to day on the fly. Can't do that with this one. Score 74. In 80th place is the GSD 5 Series Bronze. $795, size of 42 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. I do actually like this kind of bronze-colored bezel insert. Oh, it says bronze. Okay, so maybe this is just bronze, because the case... Oh, it says the case is bronze, too? Sure doesn't look bronze. Something funny's going on here. It's partially bronze. Bronze gets a 1-point advantage over steel because it's got a slightly better corrosion resistance. So, maybe this should be a score 73 instead of 74. It's not really looking all that great. This is kind of cool here. They put the date here at the 4. It's right on that 4. That's not bad. I don't know. Overall, just not that inspiring. This is looking a little bit rough here. This skin diver case shape. Score 74. In 81st place is the Unimatic Modelo Uno UC1. Price of $567, size of 42 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. I really like these Unimatics. They do some super cool stuff. I'm definitely fond of the Unimatic. I know the bezel's not all that useful, but it is very cool. It is definitely cool this way. If you're gonna do something artsy, go all in. They went all in on this thing. It looks really nice. There's no date. It is more art watch than tool watch. It does barely make it in. 73 is still technically a C grade, so it's still passing the class, but it's just squeaking in. The lume looks really good on this actually. Score 73. In 82nd place is the Selton Savage Bronze. Price of $629, size of 39 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. Lume looks really nice on this. You get the sandwich dial, and the sandwich cutouts are actually bordered, so that looks pretty cool. Interesting logo here. Of course, you get some kind of mineral dial, some kind of stone. They have some kind of green stone you can get as well. It looks nice. This is an artsy photo, but at least it's still head on and you can see everything. So I like that. I mean, take a nice picture of the watch, but at least do it head on, so that's what they did. Yeah, looking pretty good. Score 73. In 83rd place is the Nubeo Ventana. $970, 50 millimeters across, and 1,000 meters water resistance. Why is Nubeo $970? I don't know. It is wacky looking, weird looking dial. I do like their oversized indexes. I am a fan of that. The Nubeo handset is cool too. I love how they do this. I do like how these things look, but that is way too rich for my blood. Oh my goodness. I do like kind of color PVD. Some of these look really neat. I think this green one would look really cool. It's nice you get all the dots all around, interrupted by numerals, but that's okay. Get some crown guards. Yeah, it's all right. 16 millimeters is not too crazy for 1,000. The average for a 1,000 meter dive watch is 15.7, so this is just a touch over the average. It's a thick watch. It's crazy depth reading, so they go hand in hand. Score 73. In 84th place is the Mark II Stingray. Price of $940, 40 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. Got kind of a Blancpain style bezel going on. Just, one of these ones with just the 15, 30, 45. Well, it's not really a Blancpain style because Blancpain has that sapphire insert. That's actually really cool. I don't know what you call this thing. I've been calling it like a life preserver style. I don't care for it, but I can see that it's aesthetically pleasing. They did the date in between 4 and 5. That's fine. Lume looks pretty darn good on this thing. Above average lume. Score 73. In 85th place is the Avant Vintage. Price of $599, size of 41 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. Great lume, you can tell that. They have really big indexes here of lume. Lume all the way around that bezel. Very minimalist bezel, very, very thin. And then you just get these symbols. You don't get any numerals or minute slashes or anything. It's not my preference, but I'm more of a Thule kind of guy. It's 0.7 millimeters thinner than average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Total score of 73. In 86th place is the Fortuna Born to Dive. Price of $949, 43 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. Again, with this minimalist life preserver style bezel. This one is extra thick. A millimeter, 1.3 millimeters thicker than the average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. You do get the date. It's kind of not looking that great, actually. It'd be nice if they had a little bit of lume here. It's looking a little bit empty. Score 73. In 87th place is the Officine Technica Swooper. Price of $962, 40 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. That is a very beautiful dial. Is it $962 beautiful? Not for me. Maybe for somebody. Oh, I didn't notice this before. That counterbalance is looking pretty cool on the second. These numerals are pretty neat on the, life preserver style bezel here. And they've got the ceramic bezel insert. I bet that looks pretty nice. Integrated bracelet here, sort of like, the PRX. You got kind of a PRX case going on here. At 12.2 millimeters thick, it is 1.5 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance rating. Lume is looking good on this, but yeah, I don't think it's worth $1,000 with tax, $1,100 or whatever that is. Total score is 73. In 88th place is the Hamilton Navy Scuba Quartz. Price of $595, 37 millimeters across, and 100 meters water resistance. You get standard dive lume, so you get that pip. That's nice. Seems like a decent dive watch, even though it's only 100 meters water resistance, but you don't get the date. So this is just on the edge. This is you're still passing the class, but you're barely scraping in. I don't think this is a score to be proud of. It is very thin. It's a nice small size that people like who like small watches. But yeah, I think the quartz is going to be disappointing. Total score 73. In 89th place is the Audaz Trihawk. $570, 43 millimeters in diameter, and 200 meters water resistance. Angular case here. Look at this white loom on the blue loom. And there's tritium on the hands and all the way around. And then there's this bezel pip. Man, there's a ton of loom on this thing. It is nuts. So that's pretty cool. I guess that's the reason to get it. It's cool that it's kind of three-dimensional here. All these little lines on the bezel. Steel bezel. It's not the most attractive watch to me. But if you're going to do it, I do like that they have the black hands. Black outlines on the numerals. Kind of explorer-looking numerals here. It's okay. It's okay. I wouldn't... Okay, 570. It's not like it's 900. Thank goodness. It's all right. Score 73. All right, 90th of the ones that is possible for me to recommend is the Wise Adamascus AD8. Price is $690. Size of 41 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Beautiful, beautiful shot here. Like, just beautiful watch. And then great photography on top of it. Man, this is looking really nice. Supplied indices are looking good. You know, it's technically a C- score, but you can get it up. You can improve the grade, do a little extra credit by swapping out that leather strap. So that's why it's possible for me to recommend it. And any yellows you see from now on, that's the case. You got to swap the bracelet or swap the strap to get that score up. But it's a viable watch. Man, this thing is beautiful too. I mean, even if the score is low or something, at a certain point, like if it looks that good, you know, that counts for a lot too. This is a pretty looking watch. I forget where I've seen that hand before for the hour hand. That is, I've seen that before for sure. Yeah, full loom bezel. Look at that. That is exceptional loom. $690. Yeah, this one also is not. It's not like that Avicini Technica deal that was $1,000. A lot of colors apparently. I wonder if the rest look this good. This green looks so good. I like a dark green, like a British racing green almost. Yeah, that's probably what this is actually. I like that. That's nice. And there's a fume on the dial. Like, this is earning its price for sure. It looks like it should cost that much. Total score 72. In 91st place is the Heron Marinor. And oh, there's a heron on the dial. That's cool. $620, 39 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. They brush this thing a lot. The case is looking very industrial. I wonder if it looks that dark in person. This color is really cool. It's like it's got such a tiny amount of like blue in it. It's almost just straight up gray. It looks super good. I really like how that looks. This star, it makes me think of the star above Jesus, you know, when he was born. That's kind of cool. I do like the little bird here too, and it says heron. Oh, there's an accent over the E. I missed that. Very minimal dial text. I like the silver text here. That looks really nice. Silver printing looks really good. It's underutilized. But yeah, this is only recommended if you swap out that bracelet, because the bracelet doesn't have an extension on it. Total score 72. And in 92nd place is the Trintec Zulu 07. Price is $700. Size of 47 millimeters. And 200 meters water resistance. This one's got a nice red second there. I like that. I do like this here. It's this kind of pilot style where it's so black at the bottom. I think Zinn does this with their pilot watches where it's so black and then you just see the white here. So you don't even really see the pinion. Like, they don't want you to even be distracted by that. You just have hands and just crisp white against that dark black. Very thick printing. And that's all loomed. Like, this loom is going to look so good. You can tell. You only get the pip on the bezel. It'd be nice if there was more loom on the bezel, but that's okay. The way they did it to split the numerals here does look a little bit funky. From a tool watch perspective, it's fine. It's just aesthetically, it doesn't look all that great. This is just reflected loom. Yeah, the bezel only has the pip. This thing is very thick, 17.5. The average is 13.3, so this is fully 4 millimeters thicker than average for this water depth rating. Score 72. In 93rd place, the 92nd that is possible for me to recommend on the scoring system is the Duxit Henry. Price is $785. Size of 41 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. I think they're charging too much, but this looks really nice. You got your Seamaster. You got your Omega Seamaster hands here. Yeah, and especially with the lume, it's really kind of looking like a Seamaster. Not so much when you look at it just straight on in the light. I love when they mix the colors of lume. That's nice. I love a sapphire bezel cover, and they've got all the dots. I mean, this is ticking a lot of boxes for me. One thing that does aggravate me is the green not matching the green. I think it'd be better if the dial was black or something. Total score 72. 94th position is the Victorinox Maverick Large. Price of $550, 43 millimeters across, and 100 meters water resistance. Lume is looking bad. I mean, this lume shot is not good. So it was the only one I could find. The shield is lumed. You know, it might actually look pretty good if you turn the lights out and charge up the lume before you take the picture. But actually, what are these little dots here? I don't know. I mean, the numerals are lumed, the 9 and the 3. That's kind of nice. You're going to get a big blank spot here where the date is. There's no second lume, so yeah, it's below average lume for a dive watch. That's for sure. And it's a quartz, which isn't ideal. 11 millimeters thick is thin, so good. It's a good thing you're actually getting a thin watch with this. But I think if you go for Victorinox, you go for the Inox. That's going to be more tough. This thing's not that tough, I don't think. But yeah, 11 millimeters thick. Average is 13.4, so 2.4 millimeters thinner than average. That's pretty nice. Score 72. In 95th is the Dufresne Travis. $899, 39 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. You got your skin diver style case, pretty much. Not exactly. These are a little bit more rounded. Bezel is very minimalist. Only the pip is loomed. Yeah, you're missing everything in between the 15, 30, and 45. Nothing. Just totally empty. Not what I would choose, but it does look cool. Give it that. And I like how they have lume around the indexes. That looks really cool. Sort of like a skeletonized index. But you don't see it in the light. It's only until you turn off the lights that you go, whoa, that's cool. So I like that on the minute track. And then the sunburst looks really nice in the center. That orange looks really good against this blue. Minimal dial text. I can't really tell the handset because the second's right over the minute hand. That's unfortunate, but I think it's just a plain, straight hand. That's what it looks like. You do get a loomed counterbalance on that second hand. Score 72. In 96th place is the Core 7 Sins. Price of $749, 42 millimeters across, and 300 meters water resistance. I will admit the loom looks really cool. You've got this kind of switchblade handset here, the handle and the blade of the knife. That's kind of cool. I'll give it that. You've got some red loom apparently. You've got a loomed day wheel that just, it tells you your sins instead of the day. So I call that a distracting complication. You know, it's something a little bit different. I said dive watches are fun, so I shouldn't give this a hard time. I do think for $749, that's too much. It's not that cool. It is cool, I'll give it that, but not $749 cool. Here's a titanium case. Are these titanium cases just made by the same thing? There's a few brands that have this exact shaped case, and it's a titanium case. Are they all just getting their cases from the same place? That's what I wonder. Score 72. In 97th place is the Vostok Europe Energia. Price of $898, size of 48 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. It seems like every video there's a Broncos watch. The orange and the blue. And this is the Broncos watch for the mid-tier category. Yeah, I like these ones. It's cool that they have the tritium. You get double tritium tubes on the 12. You get a tritium little tiny tube in here for the pip. Bezel looks okay. Yeah, I'm actually digging this one. It looks pretty cool. It's very huge. 17.3 millimeters thick is very, very thick. Kind of proprietary strap thing going on here. We saw the triple lug one. This is a quadruple lug watch. And then you've got like an Allen screw holding it in there. Very interesting. I wonder if you can swap this out. Trapezoidal date wheel here at the 6 o'clock. Helium valve, it says on the dial. I did give it credit for that. If you're going in one of those chambers. Cool pattern on the dial too. Score 72. In 98th place is the Leisure Coral. Price of $800. Size of 42 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Oh man, that loom is nice. It's not a Rolex homage. You got a really cool pattern on the dial. It's kind of spirally pattern, almost like a painting. This looks really cool. And then the color as well. I mean, we've seen a lot that are this kind of color. A blue that's a little bit paler, and it's got a little bit of green mixed in, just a touch. It's really nice looking blue. It's reminiscent of water, which you see often on dive watches. Apparently there's a brown, a green, a gray, and a black as well. $800. I said this thing is overpriced. I don't know. Maybe it's not. It's outside my price range, so they all look like they're too much to me. Score 71. 93rd of the ones I will recommend is the Heinrich Tauscher 2. I think that means just like watch or something. $877, 41 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. Oh, that's cool. They show you on the side, you've got this wavy loom pattern on the side of the bezel. That's cool. Now we can't really tell what the dial looks like, but at least we know what the bezel looks like in the dark. No, you get a loom pip, and you just get standard dive loom on the dial. Nothing special there. I like circular date windows. That looks neat. I like when there's a little ring kind of separating the minute track from the center piece of the dial. And these kind of go over it. These indexes are very long. It does have a unique style. It does call back to maybe Art Deco, not really, but maybe 50s or something. I'm not up on my history, but it does look old school in a very nice way. I did double check on this, and you can change out the bracelet. It's not, there's lug bars down here underneath it, so you could put something else on here. You may not be able to do a NATO or something, but you could put on a different type of a strap. Score 71. In 99th place is the Gakota G02. Price of $649, 40 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. I am really digging the shape here. Got a little bit, like when you have these, the lugs match on the other side, that I say Patek Philippe Nautilus. Obviously it doesn't look anything like the Patek Philippe Nautilus, but that is kind of cool when they have that symmetry on either side. What's really cool is gold. I don't see nearly enough gold on the watches. We need more. This gold border to the date window looks nice. These gold hands look really good. Yeah, I'm digging this. The green with kind of these faded numbers. I said I liked silver printing. This is looking good. This font is really interesting in a good way. I like this. And you do get you get kind of the standard dive format for the bezel here. Actually, this is a little better than standard because you get your 5-minute increments. So, very nice. Very stylish. Jubilee style bracelet, which does not have the extension. You know, to get up to that C grade, you should swap it out or keep it on. You do you. Loom looks okay. It's nothing to write home about, just kind of standard level dive loom, which admittedly is a higher standard than other watch types. But it's okay. These are very thin, so they probably fade fairly quickly. Score 71. And 95th of the ones I'll recommend is the Dryden Pathfinder. Price of $550, 41 millimeters across, 200 meters water resistance. Some nice mix of colors here with the purple, the light blue, and then black bezel, and then a little bit of orange here. There's a lot of colors going on, but I think it works. I would prefer if the orange was something else. If it was the blue, I think that would be better. Personally, that's kind of picky. Loom looks really good. You've got the loomed hash thing. Very thin, 11.8 is well under the 13.3 millimeter average. 1.5 millimeters thinner than average. Score 71. Place is the RZE Resolute Super Compressor. $699, 40 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. It is an internal rotating bezel. Looks like you get green loom on the triangle here at 12 o'clock. And it's a dual time bezel. That's interesting with the internal rotating bezel. I'm sure we've seen one before, but that's striking me as something notable in this moment. The dial has some kind of texture to it that is interesting. So that's good. They also have this in white, and it's a little bit thinner than average. That's nice. Score 71. In 103rd place is the Visitor Dune Shore Shallows. Price of $750, size of 44 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. Very unique case shape here. These Visitors they look very unique. Teardrop shapes here on the bezel, 12, the 6, and the 9. Kind of exclamation point style here. Very unique minute hand. And look at that stylish hour hand. Very thin and then these gigantic bulbous things on the end. The second hand is teeny tiny. You get a sector, you know, a crosshair pattern in the middle. But the dial is looking pretty plain to me. And the text of the brand, the Visitor here, I like the font, I like the placement, that's all cool. It's a little bit dim. I think that would look better in black or a dark gray. The white doesn't look as good to me since you have all this other white. I think it would be nice if this stood out a little. Very stylish case. You've got some interesting angles going on here. Yeah, very, very cool case shape. And it goes with those hands. It's way more stylized than I'm used to seeing on the watch. Reminds me of old houses with kind of the really cool molding and stuff like that. Just harkens back to a more elegant time. Score 71. In 104th place is the West End Watch Company Impermeable. Impermeable, well, they say it will be permeated past 200 meters, so it's not impermeable, is it? But it's $813, 42 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. Date is not centered in the date window. Loom pip has fallen out. Guys, get it together. I'm sorry. $813. I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't. Their logo is all right. That's not a problem. But yeah, I mean, if the pip falls out, like, get another watch and take a picture of that. Like, fix that before you take the product shot is what I think you should do. But I wasn't able to find a loom shot. Apparently, well, this one is not going to have the loom pip because it fell out, but the watch itself is supposed to have a loom pip there. So this is the pattern you would see. And apparently if you change that bracelet out, you can get the score up to a 74 and is above that threshold. Score 71. In 105th place, 98th of the ones I will recommend, is the Dorenzo DRZ03 Eclipse. Price of $951, size of 40 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. The red is looking good. It's looking really, really good. It says Eclipse, and it looks like an eclipse right here. We saw that eclipse recently in 2024, so that's interesting. Oh, that is so cool. You've got these circles. They kind of incorporated the eclipse theme here with these circles. That's at least what is coming to my mind when I look at them. Circle cut out for the date. I can't tell if that's a color matched date. No, it's just black. It's just a black date wheel. Still cool though. Nice handset. Very minimalist style bezel, thin bezel. I think it works all right. Just kind of a generic case shape that we see a ton. Unprotected crown. But swap out that bracelet and I think you're okay, because that bracelet doesn't have the extension. It's a little bit thinner than average. Very nice. Score 70. In 106th place is the Bulova Mill Ships. Price $716, 41 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. So in this size watch, what you usually wonder is it a 20 millimeter or is it a 22 millimeter lug width? You know, for changing straps. Well, on this one, it is neither. It is not a 20. It's probably not even an 18. I think this is a 16 millimeter strap on this thing. Don't quote me on that. I don't remember exactly. But look at how tiny that strap is. It looks very weird. You've got this this is kind of an old school sort of thing where, okay, the white part will turn brown if water goes in there. I don't know if that's functional on this or if it's just like a design element. Hard to say. Loom actually looks decent. I say actually because I'm often disappointed by Bulova, unfortunately. There's no date on it, unfortunately. And it is way thicker than average. A couple millimeters thicker than average for this depth rating. Score 70. In 107th place is the Heim Descent. Price of $625. Size of 39 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Pretty looking dial here. You got sand here sticking to the silicone strap. That looks kind of cool. This I do not like. I do not like what they did on the bezel. Do not like this Sam I Am. I call it a multi-feature. Okay. Because I guess technically it's the elapsed time and dual time together. I don't know. 3006. That just looks confusing to me. It's okay. I won't worry about it. There's no second loom, unfortunately. Yeah, don't recommend this one. Score 70. In 108th place is a very cool watch, the Spinnaker Picard. Price of $550, 45 millimeters, And water resistance of 550. Is that the only one? This is the only one with a water resistance of 550. The main thing about this is this crazy crystal on there. This ridiculous crystal. I will show you a picture of it. I have to. So here it is. There's a picture of what this crystal looks like on the side. Totally crazy. This thing is 21 millimeters thick, but so much of that has to do with this crazy, crazy crystal. Yeah, I mean, that's the reason you get this thing. It's for that crazy crystal. Otherwise, kind of just a standard dive watch, really. The average for 500 meters is 14.5. So yeah, this is fully... Oh my goodness. This is fully 6.5 millimeters thicker than the average for the 500 meter depth rating. Like I said, it's the only one with the 550, but you can compare it to the 500s. It does look really cool. It comes in a green and a black as well. The green looks really cool. Score of 69. In 109th place is the Vero Open Water. Price of $875, 41 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. Oh man, I love you get numerals every 5. You get every single minute marked with wider ones at the 5-minute increments. This is awesome. This did get a pretty major penalty here for not having the minute marks on the dial itself. If they just put little white dots or something on the dial, little black dots, this would definitely be a recommended dive watch. So they missed the mark there. This second hand being orange, that's also not the best. Should probably be black, just with a white tip. I think that would be the best for this. Minimal dial text. Looks pretty cool. You don't get a date either. It'd be nice to get the date. I like these crown guards. Yeah, cool looking watch. Thinner than average. 11 millimeters thick is what? 2.3 millimeters thinner than average for this 200 meter water resistance. Good lume on the bezel. Every 5 minutes the markings are loomed. That's pretty nice. Total score 69. In 110th place is the Vratislava Conceptum Klingert. Price of $595, 42 millimeters in diameter, 200 meters water resistance. Yeah, there's a whole lot of slashes in your face. There's just slashes everywhere. I would have preferred numerals on the bezel. Great lume though, fully loomed bezel. Yeah, this is above average in the lume department for sure. No date on this, unfortunately. Bracelet does not have an extension on it. Score 69. In 111th position is the Nove Marine. Price of $880, size of 42 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. You've got some crown guards here. Very interesting case, very interesting bracelet. It's an internal rotating bezel, and this is really cool. The entire set of markers rotates. So if you rotate this thing, your entire concept of the watch changes. The stationary ones are on the outside, and the rotating part is on the inside. So it kind of flips the script there. That's kind of interesting. I don't hate it. Same tired old song for me. It would be great if you had the markings on this exterior bezel too. That would be really nice. But yeah, this is really cool. I haven't seen anybody do that before. It's too bad on the loom shot you don't get to see what I'm talking about. But yeah, this whole thing moves on the inside. The bracelet, as cool as it is, does not have an extension, unfortunately. Totally average thickness. 13.1 is totally average thickness for this watch. Score 69. In 112th place is the Nottage Diver. Price of $649, size of 41 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. I don't know where they're measuring the 41. Maybe it's the bezel diameter. Kind of basic thing here, looking a little bit like the Panerai Submersible, except you don't have any numerals, unfortunately. It'd be nice if you had the 15, the 30, the 45. There's no date on this. Very symmetrical with these dots, which is not the best for orientation. There's a reason why typically the 12 is a different shape than all the others. So it would have been nice if this was different at the top. Could have just done a bigger circle for the 12. You don't have to do anything crazy, just slightly different. Really helps with that orientation in the dark. Score 69. In 113th place is the Wicked Watch Pearl Diver. Price is $680, 40 millimeters in diameter, and 200 meters water resistance. The bronze is looking really nice. I like this rounded bezel. It sort of is rounded like a sapphire bezel insert would be, but it's not sapphire, it's bronze. That's really cool. The dial itself has this kind of meteorite pattern. I don't know if it's meteorite or not. Kind of a coffee stain color. Cool looking hands. Again, no minute marks. No minute hash marks on the dial. It's a shame. Cool hourglass index for the 12. The lume is outrageous. This is really, really bright. You can tell from the printing, you look at it and you can tell it's going to be good lume. They unscrewed that crown. You can see it's got a screw down crown there. Score 69. In 114th place is the Bulova Devil Diver. Price of $600, size of 41 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. This is one of those ones that you'll see recommended fairly often by the Teddy Bulbasaurs and the like. They'll say, oh yeah, this is a neat one. It's okay. It comes in orange. I just say it's okay because we've seen better ones. I do like that you get the minute markings all the way around. That's definitely in the score. You get the date. It is extra thick though. 15.7 is fully 2.5 millimeters thicker than the average for the 200 meter water resistance. That's not great. I mean, it's not a bad watch. It is below my recommendation threshold. There's no crown guards. Yeah, a little bit under average in my opinion. Total score is 69. In 115th place is the Nautis Cortez. Price of $703. Size of 47 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. I could not find the lume shot. This is the basic lume pattern for you to kind of imagine what it might look like. This is an homage of the Formex Reef. It's not a subtle homage whatsoever. They're just copying the Reef, even kind of with the, you know, what it looks like here. Yeah, 703 is way too much. I don't remember the price of the Reef, but it's certainly not 20 times this 700. So yeah, this fails on that front. It's too expensive for an homage. No extension on the bracelet. Score 68. In 116th place is the Le Forbon La Rochelaise. It is $800, it's 39 millimeters across, and it is 150 meters water resistant. Usually those 150s are pretty thin, and on this one, it is. Actually, the average for 150 is 12.3. So compared to its 150 meter peers, it is only about a millimeter thinner than average, but still very thin. I mean, 11.4 is a thin watch. Any way you slice it, very thin for a dive watch, so that's cool. Really cool green they did on this. I like the anchor. I like the little French flag here. It definitely makes it look cool in my mind. There's no date though. You do get your internal rotating bezel. The lume pattern you see is skipping the numbers, and it's looking a little bit weak. The hands look okay, they look decent, but this is looking kind of patchy. The indexes and then the markings on the bezel. You do get kind of a crown guard for this rotating bezel, but no crown guard here. So I didn't give it crown guard bonus because it's not really what's important to be guarded is the one that actually controls the movement. And so that's where you'd want some kind of protection, and it's unprotected here. Neat K-shape, looks shiny. It's possible the watch is actually this perfectly finished. It looks to me like some kind of computer render. Yeah, cool looking watch. Score 67. In 117th place is the M2Z Diver Watch 200-003X. $680, size of 46 millimeters, 200 meters water resistance. Look at those skeleton hands. Oh man, that is so cool. The way they do it on the other side too. That's cool. I like that. That's a Mercedes hand I can get behind right there. It's got these little stripes on the second hand. I don't know why they skipped the lume on the triangle. They skipped the lume on the bezel too. That's unfortunate. Would have been better if there was lume on that bezel. It does have a crown lock here. That's pretty cool. This cap kind of goes over the crown there. And there's crown guards. Very well protected. Yeah, I've mentioned before the pattern on the dial's a bit much for me. I don't go for these kind of three-dimensional wavy dials. It's a bit much for me. In this case, I think I might make an exception because there's so much character to this watch. Really wide strap width here. It's a 46, and that's looking pretty wide, so I bet that's a 24 or a 26 width. Probably 24, but I'm not the best at judging widths just by looking at something. But it is 17 millimeters thick, so if you like a thick watch, this might be one for you. Thicker than most would want. Total score 67. In 118th place is the Avant Polestar. Price of $689. Size of 40 millimeters and 300 meters water resistance. Cool PVD case. I like that blue. I could really go for something like that. I wish that the dial matched the case color. That's unfortunate. It is. There's some dissonance there because of that. I like that you don't have the Mercedes. If you're going to do the round thing, just keep the Mercedes thing off. And that at least you're not just blatantly cockling Rolex at that point. But yeah, this doesn't have the minute hash marks, so that kind of kills it for me. Lume is really nice on this thing. There is no date wheel. It is looking a little bit sterile to me. I don't go for sterile dials so much. I like there to be stuff on there. If these indexes were bigger, I think it might be okay. But there is a lot of emptiness here on that dial. It's not the worst, though. I like that they stylized the automatic here. That helps. Total score is 67. In 119th place, it's the Dufa Freitauscher. I think Tauscher is watch. Price of $650, size of 41 millimeters, and 150 meters water resistance. This gets a power reserve. I don't know if we've seen any other power reserves in this price range. I think power reserve is the coolest complication for a dive watch, aside from a date complication. But the power reserve is really sweet. It's just great to know that your watch is topped up. You know, it's great to have the second hand so you know that it's running. But yeah, knowing it's topped up is really nice too. Unfortunately, whatever movement they use does not have a traditional date wheel. You get the date, the mini pointer date here, which is not the best. You can tell this is the 15th, but when it's pointing to one of these white ones, it's kind of, you can't tell quickly just looking at it. You kind of have to count up. So it's clunky. At least they put the numbers on here. Sometimes they don't do that. What does this say? Gong reserve? Okay, power reserve. Gong is power, maybe? I don't know. But you get a dual time bezel. I couldn't find a loom shot for this, so we can't tell how good the loom is. It's probably pretty weak. Look at that tiny little pip. Hard to say, though, without seeing a picture. But this bracelet doesn't have an extension. It's thicker than average, way thicker than average. Total score 66. In 120th place is the Grupo Gamma Vanguard AV00. Price of $930, 43 millimeters across, 300 meters water resistance. These guys make Panerai homages. This one looks so good. It's not a ripoff of the Panerai submersible exactly. It's got its own little character here. I really like this. They've been doing this for a while, so they've kind of refined it, you can tell. I do wish it had the minute markings, though. That's unfortunate. But it's kind of a twist on the sandwich dial because you have a loomed top part and then there's no loom below it. So it's kind of a twist. At that point, do you need the sandwich? But they did the sandwich anyway. It's really cool. I'm digging this one. At 13 millimeters thick, it is 0.7 millimeters thinner than the average for the 300 meter water resistance. Total score of 65. In 121st place is the Second Hour Giant Stride, price of $589, size of 42 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. It's an internal rotating bezel. You see the loom is pretty good on this one. You get your kind of loomed hash thing. I mean, it's above average loom on this. Looks pretty cool. A lot going on that dial. 6 o'clock date, I like that. Loom below it, I like that too. So they're doing a lot of things right. No minute marks on the actual stationary dial. So that loses points in my mind. Total score 64. In 122nd place is the Nubeo Apollo. Price of $910. Size of 45 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. And it's a super thick one. 16 is almost 3 millimeters thicker than the average for the 200 meter water resistance. There's no loom on that bezel. You do get kind of like this moon pattern on the bezel. But what's the point of the bezel? Oh, it doesn't rotate. Yeah, it's a stationary fixed bezel. So that thing's not going to move. It's kind of cool. It's definitely unique. It's not for me, but I can't really say there's something wrong with it because I get huge watches that look ridiculous too. So I can't judge. Score 63. In 123rd place, the Stuart Dawson Voyager S. Price of $650, 41 millimeters across, and 100 meters water resistance. This is definitely one of the ones I lambasted at the beginning. It's just kind of uninspired. No loom on the bezel. It's a dual time bezel. You do get a date, that's nice. Loom looks pretty weak sauce. The watch looks to me like it would be $200, $300, if that. So $650 is way out of where they should be, in my opinion. It says London on it. Is that the reason? Do you just slap London on a watch and you can charge double the amount? Is that what it is? I don't know. Yeah, 14.6 is a millimeter thicker than average for the 100 meter water resistance. I don't see why you'd go for this one personally. Score 63. In 124th place is the Grupo Gamma Peacemaker PA05. Price at $930, size of 43 millimeters and 200 meters water resistance. Again, Grupo Gamma having a really cool case shape. This one fortunately does have the minute markings. They're little cutouts down to the sandwich below. I like that. It does not have a date though, unfortunately. There's no date on this. There's no rotating bezel. That's fine. The ones without the rotating bezel are always going to score way lower. After the 6th video, I'll probably do a bonus one, just kind of looking at what are the best ones without the rotating bezel. But yeah, this one looks really nice. Although there's no lume on the second hand, I think there's some things they could do to tighten this up, make it more of a viable value proposition, because 930 is a lot. They took a really nice picture of it though. That looks really good. The lume looks really great on this. But yeah, overall I don't recommend it in this video with the traditional dive watches. If we're just looking at the ones without the bezel, you know, maybe this is one of the best. I don't know. We'll see. Total score is 62. And in 125th place is the CCCP Kamchatka, or CCCR. Price of $600, size of 43 millimeters, and 100 meters water resistance. You get 4 stars. I don't know what the 4 stars are for. Interesting hands. Those are fine. It's got a style all of its own. There's nothing wrong with that. Aluminum bezel insert from the looks of it. Little markings all the way around. Love to see that. But from what I could tell, looking at the product listing, it's got a push-pull crown. That's not what you want to see on a dive watch. Your gear could snag it and pull that out. Really screw down is what you want so that you know it's not going to come out during the dive while you're underwater. Otherwise, seems okay. It's got other things like mineral crystal, no bracelet extension, all kinds of other stuff. So not the top of the class. Score 62. In 126th place is the Nitron Robotron 2. $800, 50 millimeters across, and 100 meters water resistance. The lume is ultra weak sauce. This lume is not going to win any prizes. Now, they may have done the shot a little poorly. It looks like, so I'm seeing 2 dots at the 12. There may be dots here at the 1 and 2. They may just not have shown it on it with the flashlight. So, yeah. But you can tell even if they did shine it super bright and turn the lights off, it's still probably not a great lume pattern here. There's just so little of it. There's just tiny little plots of lume. Very stylish. You get a crown cover here. Oh, I call it a locking lever. I don't know if it's crown cover or locking lever. Yeah, it looks like a locking lever because there's no distance. A crown cover, you can still unscrew and pull out the crown, and there's just kind of a cover protecting it. This one, clearly, it's like tight. It's like holding it in, so I think that is a locking lever. That's really cool. I mean, it is... Yeah, rule of cool maybe is in effect here on this one. This is very good looking. The date is way up here. It's a 50. That's why the date is so high up here, so far from the border of the dial. It's just a big honking watch. The whole thing is steel. You're gonna feel this one for sure. Score 61. In 127th place is the Bob Wilson Defender 1 Bravo. Price of $850. 44 millimeters across. 100 meters water resistance. There's no rotating bezel on it. It is fixed. Protect, respect, destroy. Green Berets 1 Bravo. I can't argue with that. It's looking really cool. You get your California dial. You get this skull with the Green Beret on at the 12 o'clock. You get your full-on arrow second hand. I've never seen one that actually just looks straight up like an arrow. I think that looks so cool. Accent orange hour hand. You've got contrasting lume here, green and blue. I mean, this watch has a lot of cool stuff going on with it. Not gonna lie. But compared against the other watches, it does not outperform them. Total score 60. In 128th is the Zlatoust 195 CHS BS. Price of $883. 46 millimeters across. 700 meters water resistance. Crazy crown cover here thing. It got the bonus for the crown cover. Maybe a point or something. Nothing crazy. Yeah, really big lugs here, and it's already 46. There's no minute markings. Get some screws on the dial. I don't know what this hole here is for. That's interesting. No date. No rotating bezel. Very, very plain looking. Literally no writing on the dial whatsoever. So that's a little bit odd. Total score is 60. In 129th place is the CCCP Kirov, or CCCR. Price of $660, size of 42 millimeters, 100 meters water resistance. It says Slava on the dial. I thought these were just like copying Russian design when I see the CCCP, but it actually says Slava on the dial, and Slava is a historic Russian watch brand. So I think this is just, it's a Russian watch. I didn't realize. I like the orange. I like all the markings all the way around here. I like the fact that there's numerals every 5 minutes. There's a date. Yeah, what hurts this one is the push-pull crown. Again, per product description, it did not say screw-down crown. So I have to go with what it says. There's no lume on the bezel. Yeah, try to make it work. 15 millimeters thick is thick. It's about 1.5 millimeters thicker than the average for the 100 meter water resistance rating. There's no bracelet extension. Total score of 58. In 130th place is the Crepas Hydrographer 1942. Price of $805, 45 millimeters, and 1,942 meters of water resistance. Interesting. Does it open from the front? Maybe it does. That is cool. There may not be any case back to this. The movement might go in from the front. That would be really cool. You get a left-hand crown. There's no date. There's no minute markings. I need to take my beef up with Panerai because they started this trend of no minute marks, and everybody's copying them just to give it that Panerai look. Ah, that's too bad. It is cool, though. I like their logo. You'd think the second was loomed, but it is not. Look at that picture. There's no lume on the second hand. Very thick. But what do you expect when you have 1,942 meters of water resistance? What's the average? Let's look at the averages. Of course, that's the only one. But if you look at the 2,000 meter water resistance rating, there were 8 of those, and they averaged 18.5. So this is about the average. It's a little bit thicker than the average if you have this crazy deep depth water resistance rating. This is definitely an enthusiast watch. Score of 58. Final 4. In 131st place is the Tetra Diver 1. Price of $615. Size of 43 millimeters somewhere. And 100 meters water resistance. Ugh, it is looking rough here on that bracelet. $615. It's looking rough a lot of places. It looks like there is just lint everywhere all over this dial. The PVD coating looks kind of gummy. There's no rotating bezel. What is this bizarre looking crown? Super long and the thinnest crown I've ever seen. That is wild. It is thin, so that's good. The 11.5 millimeters thickness is a couple millimeters thinner than the average for the 100 meter water resistance rating. There is no date on the dial. Couldn't find a lume shot. Yeah, it's just hands and indices. No second lume. Total score of 56. In 132nd place is the C Pro Nexus. Price of $595. Size of 40 millimeters. 50 meters water resistance. Push-pull crown. Not my first choice. Total score of 49. In 133rd place is the Piotr Renegade. Piotr Renegade. A lot of times you'll see it says CH, period. Because people aren't going to try to say Trzaz. Price of $675. Full bronze. Bronze dial here. I mean, this thing is stylish. It is looking really cool. The bezel doesn't rotate, obviously. You can see when they like cut this out of the piece of bronze, they did no more finishing on it. This is all you get. It seems a little bit rough here. Very much looks totally handmade. It does look cool though. The second hand, just a copy of that Seiko hand, I wish it had a different second hand on it. But yeah, there's no minute marks, no date. 21 millimeters thick. 21 millimeters is outrageously thick. Why is it that thick when it's only 100 meters water resistance? Very strange. Score 39. And in last place, the one that I recommend the least in this price range is the Onus Submersion. Price of $695. Size of 45 millimeters across and 30 meters water resistance. You're hearing this right. They actually did 30 meters water resistance. Now I can see on the dial, they say it's 200 on the dial, but look right here. This is from their website. It says 3 ATM. So who got it right? The website or the watch? I'm not going to take that chance. The website says 30 meters water resistance. That's what we're going with. It also says $695. Okay, even if it was a 200 meter, this thing is not passing anybody's tests for viability as a dive watch. There's no lume on the bezel. It has poor visibility with the silver on the white. It doesn't look good. It's just kind of a Rolex homage, except they did the Yachtmaster style bezel. Not looking good. Not looking good. Total score 31. All right, let's do the top 10. Top 10 mid-tier dive watches, $550 to $990. In 10th place, love to see it, here is the Steinhart Triton 1000 Titanium. Price of $788, size of 45 millimeters. It's a steel case. You've got some hex bars here instead of a spring bar. Very robust strap attachment mechanism here. Love to see that. Beautiful lume, orange and blue. Totally original here with this 12 o'clock index, the little squares, all the stuff. An original sweet design from Steinhart. You've got kind of the Seiko turtle style crown guards here, but it's not a Seiko turtle. It's got all these angles and stuff. They did something creative here. They did something original, and I'm here for it. It's looking good. 1,000 meters. The average thickness for a 1,000 meter dive watch is 15.7. So this one at the 15 even is almost a millimeter thinner than average for that depth rating. This is looking really good. You have the full lume bezel, the orange lume, dots on every single one of these. Interrupted a little bit by the numerals, but as I've said before, that doesn't bother me too much. You can get some minute numerals on the dial. Yeah, this one is looking really good. Great job, Steinhart. In 9th place is the Waldhof Seawolf Everfrost. Price of $789, size of 43 millimeters, and 300 meters water resistance. I like these vertical striping here. The power reserve is awesome. I've mentioned before, a power reserve is like the best complication on a dive watch. I mean, aside from a second hand, let's pretend second hand isn't a complication. It's pretty much standard now. But yeah, that power reserve is really sweet. You really want to see it. It has a nice function to it. Look on the lume shot. They didn't turn off all the lights, unfortunately. But you see the striping is more subtle when you have this kind of a picture. So the striping may not be so dramatic, which would be better. This is a bit much here. 6 o'clock date and lume on the other side of it. 43 is not too crazy. I do like this dodecagon shape bezel. I bet that looks cool when you rotate it. I'm digging this one. And it comes in black, blue, or white. It does have a bracelet extension as well on the H-Link bracelet. Total score of 85. In 8th place is the LumeTech Vortex D3. Price of $585, size of 42 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. There are different colors of lume on this. Don't be confused though, because they didn't turn the lights all the way off. So these orange hands here they're not lumed. I mean, they have lume within the hand, but there's no like orange lume on it. So the only lumes we're getting here is like the yellow, the blue, and then maybe there's some white lume on the hands here. Yeah, the yellow lume is looking sick. I mean, it's orange in the daylight and then yellow when you turn the lights off. LumeTech is appropriate. Oh, I forgot the dots over the U. Yeah, I missed the umlau. Internal rotating bezel. You get numerals every 5 minutes, and you do get the countdown full minutes up to the 15. That's sweet. It looks like even the logo is lumed. They did a lot of lume on this thing. It looks good. I like the screw pattern on the crowns here, and then also on the bezel. Oh yeah, the bezel doesn't turn, but it looks nice to have that on there. You could put this pattern on a normal dive bezel, and I bet it would be grippy enough to turn it. You don't see that kind of thing very often, but it looks really cool. Probably gonna gather dust and grime pretty easily, unfortunately. You're gonna be cleaning this thing with a toothbrush pretty often. Totally average thickness, the 13.5. Comes on that NATO strap. It's a titanium case as well, so that's nice. Score of 85. In 7th place is the Audaz Abyss. Price of $600, size of 44 millimeters, water resistance of 1,000. This is the reason why at the beginning I was like, if you're gonna skip to the top 10, maybe go to the conventional top 10, because I was a little embarrassed this one made it so high. My system just evaluates it based on the specs alone. So the looks and the aesthetic, I don't think it looks very good. It's just a Rolex homage. They copied the ring here. Professional diving instrument. So I'm embarrassed this made it up to the top, but it's got good specs at least. If you want to use it as a dive watch, it's going to be a really good dive watch. If you don't mind it saying professional diving instrument on it. Because look, you get all the markings all the way around. You get a full lume bezel, really strong lume. You get your date. 44 millimeters is not too crazy. It's 1,000 meters water resistance. It's 16 thick. That is extra thick. But for the 1,000 meter, it's only slightly above average, that average being 15.7 millimeters. So it's only 0.3 millimeters thicker than average for the 1,000 meter depth rating. I mean, they made a good watch. I just wish they had done a little bit more original of a design. Change up the hands, whatever. Total score of 86. In 6th place is the Luminox Commando Frogman. Price of $645, 46 millimeters across, and 200 meters water resistance. And this one also is not looking that great aesthetically. Oh man, if you just want like a manly looking watch, it's fine. It's looking ugly to me though. You do get tritium indices. It appears only at the 12, 3, 6, and 9 though. It looks like it gets your regular lume here. That's disappointing. I do like that you get lume for everything. If they're going to skimp out on the tritium, at least they put something there. So that's good. You get your standard time and your military time. You get a multifunction bezel. You've got your no deco times here. That's even what they say. No decompression. Air diving. If you're going to dive down to 60 meters, you only get 5 minutes to come back right back up, is my understanding. If you dive down to 36 meters, you have 15 minutes for your time down there. That's my understanding. Look into it and all that. But yeah, about the watch, forged carbon case, that's cool. On the strap, I love that they do this. If you're going fishing, you can you can measure things with this because they give you like the centimeters on one side, the inches on the other, that sort of thing. I love when they do that kind of stuff on the strap. That's cool. You get numerals in 5-minute increments all the way around, and you get minutes up to the 15. So it's a capable dive watch. It's just not going to win any beauty contests. I wouldn't want to wear it. It's a little bit too rough for me, and I like a rough watch. So I think the audience for this one is rather small. Score of 86. All right, we're in the top 5. In 5th place is the Deep Blue Master 2000. Price of $600, size of 45 millimeters, and 200 meters water resistance. And that lume is what I'm talking about. That is beautiful. Oh man, I love when they you have a full lume minute track like this. It really allows for precise timekeeping at night. And that got the full lume bonus because it's actually better than a full lume dial because you don't really need all that light blasting in your face. Really, the point of the full lume dial, in my opinion, is so you can see all these little markings in the dark and have a much more precise timekeeping. So you get that with this one. You also get a day date. Yeah, 2,000 meters water resistance rating. Crazy. And the average thickness for 2,000 is 18.5. So this one at 17 millimeters is 1.5 millimeters thinner than the average for that depth rating. So Deep Blue does a good job with their dive watches. If for some reason you want a 2,000, you're definitely going to be looking at this one. Like I said, there's only 8 in the total video series that I found. There's probably more out there, but yeah, if for some reason you really want that 2,000, you're looking at this one for sure. Helium escape valve on here. I like the blue hands with the black dial. That's cool. I actually don't see that very often at all. Looks very nice. Full lume bezel. They copied the Rolex case shape, but they mixed it up. They did some other stuff. Day date, that sort of thing. Yeah, why not? This pleases me. Score of 87. In 4th spot is the Circula Dive Sport. Price of $978. Size of 42 millimeters. Water resistance of 500 meters. And you wouldn't know it by the thickness because it's only 13.4 millimeters thick. It has the thickness of the average 200 meter watch, but it is 500. That is sweet. They really made this thing thin for that 500. The average for 500 is 14.5. A millimeter thicker. So they did a good job on that. The lume looks really nice on this. That minute hand is so bright. That's really, really good. Full lume bezel. I like the mix of the colors for the lume. That always pleases me. Circula is really cool. They have a lot of different dial and bezel combinations. So it's one of these things where it's like, it's not a full custom thing. You can't change the hands or anything, but you can choose which bezel you want to be on the watch. And they've got some cool combos. This blue here is like a green blue. The gray that's a silver. They have a silver dial. And you get different accents. I think the silver may have like an orange accent instead of this yellow here on the second. So they're all cool. It's fun to just kind of look at all the different combos they have. They do have steel bezel inserts too on some of these. It's a titanium case, so that's really nice. Yeah, this is a really, really strong dive watch, and I think it looks really good too. So it ticks a lot of boxes for me, and it actually does really well in this whole video series, you'll see. Total score of 87. In third place is the Raven Endeavor 2, price of $590, size of 42 millimeters, and 500 meters water resistance. The loom is so good on this. This is the one I've been teasing for so long. This is the one I think I'm gonna pick up for my yellow. So the problem is, it's 590 bucks. I still need to save up for a month or two. Like, I've already saved up a little bit, but I'm gonna need to save up for a few more months to be able to get it. It's a limited production watch. It may already be sold out right now. It's for sure going to sell out by the time I have enough money. So although I want this one, I may not be able to get it. 12 millimeters thick is so thin. I was saying the Circula was thin at 13.4. 12 is outrageous for the 500 meter depth rating. Yeah, the average for the 500 was 14.5. So this is 2.5 millimeters thinner than average. That is nuts. The case shape is really cool. You've got this crown protection here. It's kind of recessed into the case. I really like that. Cool indexes on here. 6 o'clock date. It doesn't have loom underneath that. That's one downside. The dial looks really nice though. It's kind of an enamel style dial. They do offer this in green, orange, and light blue as well. This is the best color though. The orange is actually really nice too. I would recommend the yellow or the orange. This green is kind of a pistachio color. It's not for me. There actually aren't a ton of pistachio watches, so this, if you really want one, Raven may be the one for you because there aren't a lot of pistachios. The bracelet does have a really nice extension on it. It's got a glide lock style on the fly adjustment system, so that's really nice. Sweet watch. Total score of 87. In second place is the H2O Kalmar 2 Slim. Price of $944, size of 44 millimeters, and 3,000 meters water resistance. Yeah, they got it to 3,000, and this is a 12. How did they do that? It's the same thickness as that Raven Endeavor that's a 500 meter, and I was saying how uncommonly thin it was for the 500 meter. The 3,000, what the heck? In fact, if you look, so when you look at these averages, the 2,000 meter dive watch, the average is 18.5 millimeters thick. And then for 3,000, the average is 17.5. I guarantee the only reason it's lower for the 3,000 is this one right here. This one is dragging that average down considerably. 12 millimeters. Good grief. That's more than 5 millimeters thinner than average. That is nuts. These guys also do offer a lot of customization. I mentioned that before, H2O. I think they have a better looking bezel than this one. I just wasn't able to, with my web browser and their website, I wasn't able to put that on there and see what that looks like. But I think they have a ceramic bezel that looks a little nicer than this thing. But you do get minute marks all the way around the bezel. Tiny little circular date window there. That's fine. Almost looks like they could have done it here instead of this circle. Maybe not. But yeah, it looks okay there. I don't have a problem with that. Unique indexes and handset and all that sort of stuff. Loom is very strong on this. They didn't do anything crazy with the loom pattern. It's technically just a standard dive loom pattern, but the loom is very, very bright on this. In that final video, I kind of sort them based on loom impressiveness, just based off the pictures, and this one does score fairly highly. It may be the best one with the standard dive loom pattern, because it's just so strong. Really cool watch. Total score of 89. In first place, the best watch in the mid-tier category is the Citizen ProMaster AS7145-69L. I know, it rolls right off the tongue, right? This watch is $665. It's 45 millimeters across, and it has 200 meters water resistance. It comes in a few different colors. You get your black, your blue, and your green. This is kind of the blue. The emerald green one has a black PVD case. The black dial has a steel bezel, not this kind of gray bezel. The loom looks really good. This is the loom for the black dial version. So slightly different because they have skeletonized hands, but it's the same loom pattern that you have on this one right here. A mix of green and blue. They put a lot of loom on there, so that looks really nice. But yeah, the main thing with this watch is just all the complications. It just does so many darn things. Yeah, I gave it the score of 2 useful complications. That's when you have 2 complications in addition to a date. And you can argue it's got more than 2, but I think this is fair just to give it 5 extra points for the complications beyond the date. Yeah, the first one you get is the perpetual calendar. So when you set this thing, you actually set the month as well. I imagine it's a little bit tricky to set this thing, but once you set it, you never have to fiddle with the date ever again because it will have all the leap years programmed in. You know, February 29th rolls around, the next day it's going to have a 1 here for March 1st. It's going to know which years are the leap year to do the 29 days in February. It's got a day complication, so this green little hand here, when you cycle through the different modes, you can just leave it on day if you want, and it will always show you what day of the week it is over here. That's cool. The other thing it has is atomic timekeeping. So, plus or minus 0 seconds a year. The most accurate watch you can possibly have. It syncs up with, you have to have a transmitter near you, so a lot of times people aren't near an atomic clock. Here in Colorado, I'm really close to one, so presumably this one would receive that radio signal, and it would just be adjusting on a periodic basis. It would just adjust, and I would just have atomic time all the time. Never have to worry about it. So that's really cool. It does supposedly have a power reserve. I don't know where the power reserve shows. It might be right here. That's my guess. Just looking at the dial, that's probably where the power reserve shows. So you can cycle through these things. It has a diving timer. That's what it's showing right here in the product image. It's pointing to that dive. Yeah, when you set it to that, I think it just tells you how long you've been underwater, even though you have the timing bezel. I'm not really sure how that works, but that's another complication on top of it. Yeah, it's titanium. It has Citizen's Duratect DLC coating, diamond-like carbon. Very, very hard coating. It's going to be very difficult to scratch this thing. It's much harder than steel. The bracelet has the extension. There's a couple buttons that you do. It's just kind of a slide in and out thing. It's not as elegant as the Glide Lock, but it has the same functionality. It's a really nice extension here. It's a solar movement. I don't know if I mentioned that already, but you're not going to be changing batteries. There is some kind of a service interval, but it's very long, so you don't really have to worry about that. Man, there's just so many darn features on this watch. You don't really see any in this mid-tier price range. Anything like this. And yeah, for my money, Citizen is the Japanese watch to get over the Seiko, because Citizen just has so many more features to it. And look, the price, $665. If you can imagine for a second, if Seiko made a watch this cool, it would be $2,000. It wouldn't be $665. So Citizen charges a reasonable price for their watches, and their watches usually have more features than the Seiko. Anyway, it's just a really cool dive watch. Total score 92. That means it's the only one that got any kind of an A grade in the mid-tier price range. The rest all got B plus and stuff like that. So, you know, in the next price tiers, premium and luxury, there's going to be a ton of A's. But in the mid-tier, this is the top. This is the highest one you get. So that's it for the top 10. Again, I had to warn people not to watch the top 10 just based on the scoring system because of this darn Audaz and the Luminox. They're just looking a little bit ugly. You know, just below them, we've got some really cool ones. Really, really cool ones below that. The Zelos Mako, the Tracer, the Aquatico. There's, you know, if I could swap them out, I would. I suppose I could have forged these scorecards. Who would really know, right? But no, I just based on the specs and the scoring system I set up, these two guys earned their spot in the top 10. But yeah, there was a lot of cool stuff in the mid tier. I shouldn't have slammed it. You got your H2O Tiburon. That is sweet. Oh man, that is so cool. It is at the top end of it though, 972. It's kind of in that so the cutoff for premium is 990 up to 2200. So this could sort of be in that premium price tier. A lot of cool stuff. The Zelos black tip looks really nice. My own personal Citizen whale shark, that's a picture of it on my wrist. Yeah, there's a lot of good watches in here. I shouldn't have ragged on it at the beginning. I feel bad about that, because as I looked at them one by one, I'm like, wow, you got a lot going on. There's a lot of thinner watches, which makes sense. As you go up in price, they're going to be making them thinner. That makes sense. They're probably using better movements. The Seiko NH35 is kind of thick, so they're using Solitas and that kind of thing. That Aqualand depth gauge, like if you're a real diver, maybe go for this, because this is the ultimate tool dive watch, probably. So you can have that depth gauge on it. The fact that it's 50 just really cost it points, because my philosophy of a dive watch is that it's an amalgam of an everyday watch and a tool watch. And so if it's too big and too crazy, it doesn't fulfill that purpose as well. You want a watch you can wear around. But yeah, this is a really sweet dive watch. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this one. There's a lot of cool watches in this video. And now for a little bit of a bonus. I noticed at the end of the video that I did have a lot of crazy watches like this Aqualand in the final top 10, the final in the 6th video. And so I went back. I did every price tier. I came up with conventional top 10s. And there's a conventional top 10 in the 6th video as well. It strictly punishes anything that's over 40 millimeters. There's a stiff penalty. And anything that's over 12 millimeters thick. So it's bringing to the top the smaller dive watches, the ones that are more wearable. And also there's a little bit of a bonus, extra bonus for the automatic movements. So here are the top 10 dive watches, the conventional version. In 10th place is the H2O Tiburon. I was just singing its praises a moment ago. And here's the black version, black dial version. Yeah, once everything's adjusted, you know, it's a 43 millimeter, it's 11.4 thick, so it's one of the thinner ones. So when you adjust it, it gets a higher score, and it is in 10th place. In 9th place is that Helson Skin Diver 38 Titanium. 38 millimeters, 13.3 thick. That's nothing crazy. That's actually below the average for that depth rating. Yeah, so this one did a lot well when I more highly praised the smaller size. Yeah, 9th place goes to the Helson. Good job. In the 8th place, it's great to see this one, the Citizen ProMaster Fujitsubo. Yeah, all these just did so much better once you really factored in the size thing. This one is 41 millimeters, and it's only 12.6 thick. So very, very wearable size. I think people are going to love the size, and the conventional looks of it are really good too. In 7th place is the Zelos Black Tip at 41 millimeter and 12.5 thick. These are all conventionally sized, so which is what you'd expect if you are looking for that. So yeah, 7th place goes the Zelos Black Tip. Beautiful full lume bezel, full lume dial. This one is looking good. And they make it in a ton of other colors. I put that on the screen so you can see black, orange, red, tan, blue, and then this white. The white, of course, being the only one with the full lume. And in 6th place is the Aquatico Super Ocean. It's a 42, and it's 13 millimeters thick, so thinner than average. Beautiful lume on this thing. It's got a mix of tritium and traditional lume. Very cool. In 5th place, this was our number 2 in the Enthusiast top 10, is the H2O Kalmar 2 Slim. You see, with a more traditional color scheme, it actually is looking better, in my opinion. That orange looked cool, but the black, I think, is the one you go with if you get this thing. That is looking really good. And that other bezel wasn't filled in. You see all these markings are filled in black on this one. I think it looks a lot better. This comes in a ton of colors, ton of customization you can do. 44 millimeters, so it's a little bit bigger, and it's only 12 thick. This lug to lug, though, if I had plugged in lug to lugs, if I could somehow have done it, because they don't say that on most of these things, so it would be hard to do a video like that with lug to lug factored in. But yeah, this looks long. Still made it in somehow. 5th place. In 4th place is the Circula Dive Sport. I showed you the silver one with that orange hand and the black. Yeah, that's really nice. I guess I got it right. The silver has orange accent. They have a lot of cool different dials on this. I didn't mention this before, but I like that you've got this little ring on the inside with these little cutouts showing you the hours. That's kind of nice. Adds a little bit more interest to that dial. But yeah, it's only 42 millimeters and it's 13.4 thick. Gets an A-. When you're scoring these things conventionally, this one gets an A-. In 3rd place is the Zelos Mako. It's 40 millimeter and it's only 11.5 thick. So yeah, that is a couple millimeters thinner than average. It's very thin for a dive watch. Zelos they're definitely a brand to look at. I mean, Circula, all these top 10 that I'm showing you, check them out. They really are the top dive watches. But yeah, Zelos, their Mako, the other ones they make are really good too. But look at that lume. Very nice. So that was 3rd place. 2nd place, coming out of nowhere, is the Certina DS Action Diver. It's a 38 millimeter watch, and it's 12.2 thick. So this is a sweet size. It's nothing too crazy design-wise. It's a very conventional looking watch. So we're doing conventional top 10. Stylistically, this is very conventional looking. It's not ripping off anybody else. It's its own design, but it's kind of a plain design. It's in the Juggernaut, it's in the Swatch Group Juggernaut, so you got your Powermatic 80. Lumen's looking pretty good on it. Very bright hands. Yeah, scored a 91. In 1st spot, number 1 conventional dive watch in the 550 to 990 price range is the Raven Endeavor 2. They don't offer a black. I think the black would be really nice, actually, but they don't do a black. You'd have to have white hands or silver hands, I suppose. 42 millimeters, 12 millimeters thick. So, as I said before, fully 2.5 millimeters below the average for the water resistance. Beautiful lume. Very, very bright lume. They did a ton of lume on this. That 6 o'clock date is nice. All right, so those were all the dive watches. Yeah, I'm done talking about dive watches. And as I always do, now I'm going to transition into talking about the Bible. All right, let's talk about the Bible. So the usual disclaimer, I'm not a pastor or a biblical scholar or anyone with any special authority. I'm just a regular old Christian and I like talking about the Bible. The verse I want to talk about today is Matthew 6, verse 34. Okay, in the New King James Version, this reads, "Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble." What a beautiful message from Jesus. It starts off with that word therefore. And in Bible study, anytime you see the word therefore, that should be a red flag. You have to look what's before it. Therefore means, based on what I said earlier, this is the conclusion. Therefore, don't worry about tomorrow. Why shouldn't we worry about tomorrow? Well, it was said before this. It's really cool how God did this. He puts in these therefores and stuff to just, don't miss the actual point. The point comes before it. But yeah, this is sort of like one day at a time. Don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to have its own troubles. Just worry about today. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. You don't need to bring in the troubles of tomorrow into today. This is all just a big sermon, and so I'm going to have to start earlier to get into this. I'm going to have to start a lot earlier. Jesus kind of lays this all out, so we're just going to read a little bit here. I'm going to start in verse 19. When Jesus gave this sermon, when he was walking on earth, there's no verse numbers and these delineations. It was all just a sermon, and then people wrote it down later. Those therefores, and there's a ton of therefores here, that all shows you this. You can't just pull this part out. There's more information that goes with it. So I'm going to start at verse 19. "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? When you're laying up treasures on earth, that's when your whole perspective on life is darkened. You're not looking toward heaven. Lay up treasures in heaven. So that the lamp of the body goes with that first part, but I will continue. No one can serve two masters, for either will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Mammon being riches. So all this stuff goes together. The lamp is the eye. The eye is the lamp of the body. Darkness coming in, darkness within. Whatever you use as the lens to view the world at, if you're viewing the world through the lens of seeking earthly treasure, instead of viewing the world through seeking the kingdom of God, you're going to have all this darkness inside. No one can serve two masters. So you can't do both. You can't seek after earthly treasure and seek after the Lord simultaneously. You must seek after the kingdom of heaven. All right, let's keep going because it gets even better. Verse 25, therefore, like I said, that therefore is important. That means all that stuff before it is wrapped up in what is about to be said. Therefore, I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on, riches, what I put on my body. Don't worry about that. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? Which of you by worrying can add 1 cubit to his stature? We worry about our appearance. We worry about what we wear. We worry about where we're going to get our next meal. We worry about all these things. Okay, he's talking about the clothing. I'm going to continue verse 28. So why do you worry about clothing? And watches and adornments, whatever, how you look, how other people perceive you. Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Solomon being maybe the richest guy of all time. Now if God so clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? So worrying is lack of faith. When you're sitting around worrying about what you look like, what other people think of you, it means you have little faith, according to Jesus here. Oh, you of little faith. Therefore, another therefore, keep on going. You can't just take a little chunk. You can't pull these out. Therefore, do not worry, saying, what shall we eat? Or what shall we drink? Or what shall we wear? For after all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you need all these things. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. And here's the verse I started off with. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. All these things will be added to you. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. That's what God tells us. And you don't have to worry. You're not going to worry if you're seeking after the kingdom of God. You're not going to worry about what do I look like? Where am I going to get my next food? God will provide. That's what Jesus tells us. This was especially important for his disciples because they were going to go through some hard times. They were going to be killed in really horrific ways, actually. Except for John, they were martyred. God is saying, don't worry about that. Don't worry. There's something better. There's something better in the kingdom of heaven. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Yeah, this is an amazing passage. Like I said, one day at a time. The things Jesus is telling us not to worry about include our physical appearance. He mentioned the cubit. You're not going to add a cubit to your stature. Let that go. He's saying, whatever your height is, don't worry about it. It's going to darken your whole perspective on life if you're focused on that. The eye is the lamp of the body. Wealth, don't worry about your wealth. It doesn't matter so much, but your heavenly Father knows that you need things. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you. Does that mean you're going to be rich if you devote your life to Christ? No, it doesn't. But it means that God will provide. God will provide for your physical needs. Yeah, this whole thing was kind of a sermon by itself, so I don't feel the need to go into a ton more detail. I will just read a few more passages, and then that'll be it. But let's look at Philippians 4:6. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Okay, so God doesn't give us everything we ask for, all the physical things, but the peace of God which surpasses all understanding. That's what we're going to get. That's actually better than whatever thing we probably think we want. Okay, let's look at another one. 1 Peter 5:5-7. Likewise, you younger people, submit yourselves to your elders. Yes, all of you be submissive one to another, and be clothed with humility, for God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Therefore, humble yourselves under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. That was the part, do not worry, cast all your care upon him. So humility is incredibly important here. Humble yourself. Themes we've seen so far is it's important to have faith in God, it's important to humble ourselves, and there the anxiety will go away. That's kind of the point, is because I think we all want not to worry. When all throughout the Bible, God is saying, fear not. Like, if you search for the words fear not, or be not afraid, or do not worry, all these sorts of things, you're going to get so many verses. Like, the Bible is just loaded with verses talking about be not afraid, do not fear. How do we not fear? Well, one of the ways we can not have fear is younger people, submit yourselves to your elders. Be submissive. Humble yourselves. That's how. And also, don't worry about tomorrow. Just worry about today. It's kind of a practical thing you can do, one day at a time. Yeah, I think that's all I have on this one. It's a beautiful message, and thank you for allowing me to share it with you if you listen to this whole thing. Now a short prayer. Lord, thank you so much. I'm grateful to be able to study your word and share it with others, and I pray that your word would not return void, that it would bless all of us who hear it. Lord, please lead us not into temptation and deliver us from evil. Pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. Now may the Lord of peace himself give you peace always and in every way. The Lord be with you all. See you next time.